Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 360 of Spittin Chiclets, presented by Pink Whitney from our friends at New Amsterdam Vodka here in the Barstool Sports Podcast family. What's up, everybody? We're back in our home studios after a week on the road. Great time in Philadelphia. Plenty to talk about this week, but let's say hi to the boys first. Mikey Grinnell, you had an adventurous weekend, I understand.
Hello, gentlemen. I did have an adventurous weekend. Saturday, I went to the Bruins game. Bruins Devils over in Newark. It was a great time. But on Friday night, I got sold some fake tickets to the Dave Matthews concert.
What'd you say?
After I was
two mistakes there.
After I was not allowed into the concert, I ended up at the Margaritaville Resort in Times Square with PFT commenter and Donnie Does and Hank Lockwood. So it was an adventurous night.
Was that the opening there?
They opened a few weeks ago, but man, that place is unbelievable. I'd go there on any Saturday, Sunday.
So who was Dave Matthews opening for?
Don't ask RA.
Definitely would have missed him.
I would have loved to go see Dave Matthews. That's the problem. I think Dave is great. I got a lot of shit online for it, but the guy seemed like a real straight shooter.
Not as much as
at
MSG.
It was at MSG. I went to the KFC radio show beforehand, and then me and my buddy just said, hey, let's pop over to MSG, go see Dave Matthews. And the first guy we saw, we just said, we had $32 in our pocket. He said $60. We said, we got 32. He said, deal right away.
Oh,
we
that
get
sounds
security.
way too cheap to begin with.
Yeah, well,
I
didn't know you didn't lose money. You lost $32. I thought you actually
your pizzas cost more than you lost in fuck Jersey Shore. Hey, and another thing too, it's like you didn't think twice when he's like, how much you got? Like,
no, didn't think twice at all. The second I pulled the ticket out of the pocket, the guy goes, fake, get out, fake, you're done. And I'm like, no, scan it. I'm like, please scan it. Trust me. He scans it. Boom. They kicked me right out.
So you like this day and age? I mean, you just didn't think that it might be fake.
Didn't think twice
right now.
Never thought twice. Big Dumbo move by me.
Gee,
this is our podcast. Is they say what's the term? Everything evens out in the wash. Every ticket.
I don't know, even what do you mean?
Wash. Everything evens out in the wash. You win some, you lose some. This is our podcast version of like the collective four. We got RA sneaking into concerts, and then Grinnell's getting ripped off to not even go into the concert. So it's all even out in the wash here, guys.
Well,
you buy a ticket from a homeless guy eating an old piece of Sbarro. You're shocked to hear the ticket was fake.
Hey,
he was in the train station in a box, and Grinnell bought a ticket from him.
I would pay money to see the interaction.
Dude, it was actually a piece of the cardboard box he lives in that he cut out and wrote on Dave Matthews MSG.
Oh, no. It was the barcode from the pizza box. No, scan it.
Hey, the worst part was
try to scan
this, man.
Yeah. Hey, 10% off at Sbarro's on your next slice.
Hey, we didn't even look at the tickets. It's like when you looked at like the printed seats, were like XYZ in section, like a bunch of random letters and numbers.
November 10th, 1996.
Did you even bother looking at the price of the tickets on the ticket?
Nope.
Oh my goodness.
He seemed like a real straight shooter.
RA came out of his coma. RA, you're the concert guy. How do you feel about all this?
You know what? There's a part of me that sympathizes with him because I had a fuck up like this too. U2 was here in Boston, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And a kid was coming out of the concert. Well, if you look close to the exit, and he's like, hey, you need a ticket. And I'm like, yeah. And I could tell he wasn't a scalper. And this was before you did all the things on the internet and downloaded all your tickets. You still used a paper ticket. And I fucking gave him like $1.20 or whatever. And I got to the thing and they're like, oh, this is already scanned. But the concert had fucking just started. So he must have either got kicked out or like he had an extra ticket. I don't know what, somehow the ticket was already scanned. So I don't know if the dude got thrown out and then just sold his ticket. And I was pissed at myself that like I got beat by a scalper in front of Boston guy. That's my turf,
bothered you for a month, I bet.
Oh, it fucking pissed me off so bad. But hey, you know what? At least we weren't in that concert at Daytona Beach this weekend, Biz, where that broad just ripped a mad pisser all over that guy's face.
I have not seen the video, but you were telling me about it beforehand, and I'm kind of like, listen, we used to have who's the guy who bit off the bat's head?
Ozzy Osbourne.
It was Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
Where like, that's a little bit rocker-ish. Pissing on somebody's leg on stage. I mean, yeah, I'm sure a few people were offended, but
not
it was on the dude's
It was on the dude's face, dude. It was a full-fledged fucking golden shower right on the stage.
Like the guy was, had to be deranged. It was the same guy who sold G the ticket to DMB, buddy. He just ended up going to this concert.
Cost him $32 extra.
And he got holes in his nose hair.
He's part of the underground music scene. He's trying to create morale around these shows. But I will say, like, even though you told me and you elaborate on the story, like, I'm still not completely mad about the play. You're at a rock show. You're trying to. It's entertainment, right?
Yeah, it was over the top. I guess the rest of the band said, "Hey, that was funny, but it ain't going to happen again." I think that the rest of the band.
Who was the band?
But
they can thank that person for the publicity, though, because now their band's being talked about nationwide, right?
True that. Yeah, true that.
This is rock and roll. It's like you are fair game on anything, except for like obviously the bad shit. But like when it comes to like pissing on a person's face on stage, I mean, I don't think that's the worst thing.
The band is Brass Against is the name, and the lady's name was Christina Yersa or Sophia Yersta.
Sophia Yersta was the singer. But yeah, nobody.
Whit's kind of like, I don't know. Do you disagree with what I'm saying?
I just think it's so disgusting. And if you get up there and have some stranger piss on your face, you're so fucked up that I want nothing to do with you. Like, if I was like with that guy,
we could agree on that.
He could have been my lifelong friend. I just erase his number from my phone and take my own Uber home. Like, let some random, it's not even like, if it was like Taylor Swift or some like rock star pissing on your face, it's one thing. It's a cover band. It's a cover band singer. It's like, what are you doing? At least be able to say, like, oh my God, there was this Hall of Fame rock star that pissed on my face.
Adele.
Yeah,
Adele. She holds on me. No, it's
Leaking.
Adele's. It's a girl who like tries to sing like Adele pissing on you. Adele, by the way, had an amazing performance.
Her Oprah interview. Yeah. Let's go through
First
the whole
of all,
thing.
she lost 100 pounds. Like, that's amazing. She looks phenomenal. Her voice is a voice of an angel. It was pretty cool. I think it's her son. It was her first time ever seeing her perform. She said it was like her greatest honor in life to sing in front of her son. He's 9 years old. I watched a little bit of the interview. Oprah drives me nuts a little bit. But I think in the end, like, I didn't understand Adele. Like, she is one of the best voices
She's
ever
a queen.
heard.
I would put her above a Beyonce as the queen bee now overall. Because I like Beyonce's tunes and stuff too, but I mean Adele is just
Adele does not sniff the Fugees though.
That's true. Did you watch the whole performance already?
I didn't see any of it. No. I was like a little under the weather. Yeah,
but the fact that she got to interact with Oprah about, you know, where she was at the place in her life at the time, and like, you know, how it kind of translates into her music. Like, you got to remember too, like a lot of these, even the talented ones, like they aren't writing their own songs. So to have somebody not only write their own music of the emotions that they were experienced, but to deliver them with the wordage, and then to sing, like you said, with voice of an angel, like she will stop you dead in your tracks. So she is, to me, she's the queen bee right now. Now, what was driving you nuts about the Oprah interview? I thought it was
no. The interview didn't just Oprah. Sometimes I don't know. I just like people love Oprah. She's like the most beloved person.
She got too big for you.
I thought the interview with like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, she was kind of annoying. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Oprah fan. I don't really like dislike
keep
Oprah.
Watching all her interviews.
What?
We keep watching all her interviews.
I mean, you kind of have to, because she gets these.
Well, she's
mega
a powerhouse. I mean, like she's an absolute. She's had everyone ever. She's a billionaire, isn't she?
Yeah, she's worth $1 billion. Yeah, she's got an unreal story.
I shouldn't even dog Oprah. Mad respect to Oprah. Shout out to Oprah for what she's done. I don't know. It's the same way that like people who probably enjoyed like our show at some point will end up like not liking us at some point. Like she's just kind of.
You know what my theory is on it? Whit, you were like an underground Oprah fan when she first started out, and like you saw the whole come out, and maybe she hasn't answered a few of your letters and stuff, and then like now you're like on the flip side, you're on the other side of it.
No,
she got too big. You liked Oprah before everybody started liking Oprah.
No, I asked the Oprah cover interviewer to piss on me, and they wouldn't, so I've just always held it against her.
What was that? An hour CBS special?
Might have been a little longer, right? I don't know. I watched 60 Minutes too. 60 Minutes. TikTok did an incredible feature on the ports and the delays. And
I saw that.
Oh my God. What a racket. What these people, there's people getting their lives ruined because of the delays in the ports and the shipping. And what an incredible, check it out. I'm sure it's online. CBS pretty much explains like the Long Beach and the LA ports and how everything is completely fucked. And what the guy actually said, you're looking at inflation, like in person. So
it's affecting the Chiclets merchandise too. Like we get a lot of our stuff from China. Which
is the reason Whit brought it up.
Exactly. Like, what the fuck? I got to get my.
Why can't I get my ugly
roller
sweater
hockey? He wants a street hockey stick. I got to get him something. We got to sell these T-shirts.
Whit, I'm sure that people who are watching when this drops in YouTube, what's up at your elbow? You finally got the surgery, it looks like.
Yeah, I got the surgery, and holy shit, did I need the surgery, because they went in there, and I think the last MRI I had was July, and that was when my boy Cam over at BU, who ironically enough, I've mentioned him before, he wrote Grinnell, and he's like, hey, I think I can help Whit. Like he's the head guy at BU physical therapy. So I started going over, and he really helped me, like, at least play a little golf this year. I got to play second half of July, August, September. I was hurting the whole time. I had to get all this cortisone, but he got me out there. But in the end, we did whatever we could, and I needed surgery. So we go in there. It turns out the tendon was completely ruptured, muscle torn off the bone. Like there was a ton of swelling in the joint. The surgeon, shout out Dr. Ruckelsman. Thank you, Dr. Ruckelsman. He said, dude, you had to do this. He goes, if you tried, because I was thinking, like, I don't want to get surgery. Surgery is the last thing you want. My entire athletic career has been ruined by surgeries. I've been fucked up from the get-go, from whenever I started getting surgeries on my ankles and my wrist. So I didn't want to do it. He told me, had you tried to rehab for it? Because what I was going to do was either just get surgery, and I can't play golf for 5 months, which is a kick in the dick, but oh well. I should be healthy for May. It was either that or it was rehab and not play golf for 4 months anyways and just not even touch a club. So it was like one way or the other, I was out. Had I done that, he's like, dude, you would have played one round of golf, would have blown right back up. So what an amazing feeling it was coming out of surgery for him to reinforce, like, dude, you had to do that. Because once we went in there, it was so much worse than we thought. I guess the MRI, you couldn't see that it was ruptured. So, yeah, man, now, it's a kick in the dick. Look, dude, I got this big thing for a week, and then I go to another brace for about a month. But in a week, I can already start trying to get the mobility back going. And honestly, I'm just very excited to play golf, not in pain, because I was either in pain or I was taking 43 Aleve and Tylenol, and that's not great for the liver. And so it's just like, now I'm on the road to recovery. So I'm going to get the body healthy. I haven't had a drink in 7 days. Shout out me. I've been eating a little bit better, although I just crushed a bowl of Reese's Puff cereal. Shout out Reese's Puffs if you've ever had it.
You got a sweet
the milk's like chocolatey peanut butter. Oh,
the best.
Oh my God. Pour that on my face at a concert. And then, and then I am on fire gambling. And I'm also more, I'm as driven with the Chiclets job and the job we have right now as I've ever been.
Right.
The gambling content, the season that we have going. I am in love working right now. That's a great feeling. I think anyone knows whatever job you have, you go through ebbs and flows. I'm loving this right now. And I hammered the Barstool Sportsbook this weekend. So shout the Toronto Maple Leafs scored with about 10 seconds left in Buffalo to get me a regulation win. And then Yamamoto, who had been dogging all game in St. Louis, got one with 25 seconds left. And my Oilers got a big win on the road in regulation. So that, along with a bunch of other wins, just made it for a great weekend while I was rehabbing. My wife was cooking me food. It's just a great feeling right now. And I'm not even on painkillers.
You are on cloud nine, my friend.
I'm a natural high guy.
There you go. Last week, we mentioned all the teams who played in the Warrior Classic, and there was one left off the list. So we want to give a shout out to the New Jersey Warriors. I know they're playing the games in New Jersey, but apparently they weren't listed on the form I got. But we want to tell those guys, shout them out, because I was told that we forgot to mention them. So shout out to those guys. We have a pair of guests coming today. We have Boston Bruins legend Shawn Thornton's going to join us a little later. He's got a new book coming out, believe it or not. He joined us a while back to talk about that in his career. And we also have Anaheim Ducks assistant coach Mike Stothers, who coached our boy Biz when he won his Call the Cup up in Manchester. So
just some awesome insight into an NHL team, talking about some of these young guns in Anaheim. And I mean, we could be honest, boys, we don't really get a chance to cover them much. We don't talk in detail about them. So the fact that we got him on over the course of this very hot start for this team, it was awesome. And it was great chatting with him. So much so that we didn't really dive into his own personal career enough. So we'll have to get him back on down the road and get into that. He was one crazy bastard as a player, folks.
Yeah, I mean, he fought Nylander, Kosar. I mean, he look at his PIMs from fucking AHL in the 80s. He was a savage. Of course, Shawn Thornton played for the Ducks, so this is a very Ducks-centric episode, and we'll kick off with some Ducks news in a second. We do want to tell you first to head over to your local bar and make sure to order up some Pink Whitney. It's the perfect shot for you and your friends. All the sports are going on right now. You're out having a few pops. Have some Pink Whitney.
We went off the rails. Do I get an intro? I don't know if Whit got one either.
We kind of bounced around. I didn't do my typical because we got on G for the Dave Matthews, and then the pissin and Whit, and then the elbow. So if you got anything else you want to say, chime in right now. Buddy.
I just wanted to chime in and say, Whit, I mean, for the fans' entertainment, you've battled through this injury to provide some sandbaggers. That one we have coming out next week between Caulfield and more quack Zegras. And then we had one against Teddy and Gomez, and then the latest one, Joe Watson and Todd Fedoruk. So those are in the bank, folks. So shout out to Whit for showing up
just
injured,
grinding through
leaves. And so we're going to have enough sandbaggers for the next, let's say 4 months. Got one coming out next week, and then we'll delay him a little bit, but maybe in the meantime, we get something else from the Whit Dog as far as entertainment. Maybe it's a behind the scenes on the Barstool betting app. Because that was
we still have to play chess against each other. That could be a little 20-minute video feature, or it could be 4 minutes when I fucking checkmate your ass early on in the game.
I need to see that live when you play chess. Steve.
Okay. And on the other note, I just want to thank everybody for the support for the Watson Gloves commercial.
Oh, Biz, great job. I forgot that came. That is some funny shit. And let me tell you, companies out there who want to try to write your own commercials with corny ass lines, Biz is given a budget, correct? And then is like, whatever you want to do. You are an absolute genius when it comes to writing and then acting in these commercials. So any company that wants to do ads and wants to work with Paul Bissonnette, let him decide what it will be, and it'll be magic. Because every time you do one of these, whether it was the Pink Whitney commercial or both Watson gloves, they're phenomenal.
So it's with Pasha and Jeff, and then obviously finding a company who's willing to give you the reins and basically give you free creative control. We push the limits, they come back to us, we battle back to where as far as we can take it, and then they okay it, and then we try to execute the idea. So the first one was shot in a day. We pre-planned the whole thing, found the locations, and we tried to do the same thing in this one. And we ended up figuring out a way to execute it. But Pasha helps find the locations as well as Jeff. They help out with the writing aspect.
So that was 1 day, 16 hours.
We did a full day. Yeah. Woke up at 6 a.m. Wasn't done till probably 12.
So where were you cutting the wood? That had to be the first scene because you had the beard. Then you obviously shaved the beard, right?
Yeah. So you have to orchestrate the logistics. So this is when it gets really tricky. We call it guerrilla style. So we obviously I have other things going on and they wanted it done by a certain time. And I was leaving Vancouver, and Pasha was already there and had access to a lot of guys who know how to work the cameras. They're very good with the cinematography aspect of it. So we had to rush it in order to play a home court game. And yeah, we were able to figure it all out with the help of Watson Gloves, as I said, because we were able to use their facility and some of their workers for some of the scenes.
Was that the CEO you slapped in the face?
No, that was my buddy's dad. And I fucking slapped him in the face about 20 times with this leather glove, full on. So, but we were able to execute it. And then of course, in the editing process, you got to figure it out on the back end. But yeah, it's been fun, man. And hopefully more advertisers come our way and give us the full reign on whatever we're doing commercial wise.
And while we're talking about it, Biz, we might as well mention their collection is ridiculous with gloves for shooting pucks on outdoor rinks, shredding the pow, or a night on the town. I can't talk once again. Watson Gloves has gloves for anything, quality since 1918. So give Watson a follow on Instagram and check out their website at www.watsongloves.com. And you could shop at both store.barstoolsports.com and storeca.barstoolsports.com to grab a pair of Watson Gloves times Chiclets gloves today. That's both the Canadian address and the American address. So
where's that Pink Whitney limo, dude? That was the one that Kane and all the Blackhawks run in Vancouver that first cup year.
Next. Did you say John Madden?
No, you did though.
I think, yeah, he was they were having a good time. Vancouver was one of the best road cities in the NHL.
They suck, by the way.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
We should probably start getting into some hockey. But once again, thank you to Watson Gloves, Pasha, your G, and Jeff Jacobson, who helps out with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So thank you guys. And thank you to Watson Gloves.
All right, boys, like you said, on to the hockey. And Yeah, another one of those weeks with a story that no one really wants to cover, but we got to do it. So, Anaheim Ducks GM Bob Murray is out after 13 years. He resigned after the team looked into alleged sustained pattern of abusive behavior. Whit, you've spoken about this guy over the years and how he's treated people. Basically, the NHL says there's no excuse and there's no place in our league for the type of behavior that was recently reported through the NHL hotline. We thank the Ducks organization for its prompt and appropriate response to the hotline report. So obviously that's how this was kicked off. People called this hotline, complained. We're obviously seeing a sea change, I think, with the culture. Murray is also going to enroll in an alcohol abuse program. But Whit, obviously you know this guy, you work for him. Let's go to you first on this.
Nah. Hey, goodbye.
What a tune.
Honestly,
I'm an asshole.
No, so here's the thing. I, for a long time, have said he's the biggest prick I ever met in pro hockey. So I was just kind of used to it. And now, granted, there was a reason he fucking hated me, right? He traded me. He traded a great player, Chris Kunitz, for me. I did not play well in Anaheim. I was not a great player. So he probably really hated me. I think when he saw Getzlaf and Niedermeyer and Timu, I mean, he wasn't the friendliest guy in the world, but he certainly wouldn't be rude. He picked his spots, and he knew, and he was a bully, and he knew he could treat like shit. Put it this way. I got in the elevator one morning with this guy and said, "Morning, Murph," and he just literally looked at me and then turned his head back. Like, that's all you have to say. So when you talk about the alcohol problem, I hope he gets okay. My thoughts go out to him. If he's got a problem with alcohol, that's brutal. You never want to hear anyone struggling with drugs or alcohol, and I hope he can get the help that he needs. I actually didn't even know he had an alcohol problem. Now, why would I? I'd never hung out with the guy. But in all sincerity, I hope he gets healthy and he can figure out his problems when it comes to booze. But let's not pretend that's the entire reason he was a prick. And he was a guy that just was miserable, and he just treated people like dirt. And I was a perfect example of a guy who he would see, and I disgusted him, and he made it very clear that I disgusted him. So the problem being that you can act like that, and there's many people in the history of this game who've acted like that. It's just times are a-changing, and we've talked about it over and over. And Biz, you said it best on TNT when you actually said the word asshole, which cracked me up. What do you get out of being like that? The old way and the old boys network in hockey that so many people have talked about. It was not all of the people were like that, but there were many people who were just assholes to the players. We interviewed Stothers today. He even mentioned if you used to be in the elevator with a coach, you'd be petrified. Like that's how hockey was, and I'm sure that's how football was. I'm sure a lot of sports was guys were mean to you that had the power above you. But what does it do? What does it create? It doesn't create confidence in a player. And I've had GMs like Ray Sherrill, unreal guy. I had bad games and he traded me, but he treated me with a ton of respect, and he was a nice person. And the same thing, Steve Tambellini in Edmonton. And it was just, there's been so many great people I've met in the game that have proved that you don't have to be a prick. And at the time growing up, maybe Bob Murray was treated like a prick from coaches and GMs he had, and he always decided he was going to be that way. And let's also not forget, he had a pretty good run. I mean, I think he was the third longest GM in the NHL at the time. And the Ducks have had a couple tough years, but they were really competitive for a while. And the guy had a sick career. He played over 1,000 games, 500 points as a defenseman with Chicago. But in the end, he's an asshole, a legitimate grumpy prick. So you know what? Hopefully he gets his life figured out with the booze and he becomes a little bit nicer.
Biz, did your bosses at TNT know you were going to say that on the air first?
No, and honestly, I kind of was just I don't really know what I'm going to say about it. And then when Liam threw it over to me, I'm like, fuck, man, I just don't have the energy today to sugarcoat it. I wanted to focus on the fact that, obviously with all this negative attention hockey's gotten in the last, let's say 2 months, just on certain topics, some way more intense than others. I just wanted to say, I never met Bob Murray. So I've had a lot of good experiences in hockey with people that were in power positions that really helped me. So it's hard to speak negatively, from my experience. And that's why I want to say there's so many good people in hockey, but for these types of subjects, you have to kind of vet it and talk to people behind the scenes. And literally everybody was like, oh yeah, this guy was the biggest asshole ever.
Dude, I had 8 texts.
So so I'm like, listen, I'm not, I want to focus on the good people involved in the game. And I want to say that all these people that he's treated like shit, it's finally one of those times where those people felt it was time to come forward given today's climate. And yeah, it turns up that, yeah, he was in fact being a fucking asshole. So see you later. And I'm sure somebody else is going to get that position who deserves it, and they'll flourish.
Don't have to worry about FCC complaints on cable either. I know a couple of people said that because they saw you can't swear on TV. You can't swear on network TV. You can swear as much as you want.
I didn't even know asshole was that bad. Like, he was being a jerk. I don't know. I let it fly because it's exactly what I would say on the show.
I think,
and there was another story. There was another story that happened in Detroit, and you were on the team at the time. And so it's not just like a few examples. There's like a lot of these like pretty intense examples. Like, do you feel comfortable talking about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there, and you can look it up online, but a woman claimed that he like fired a chair at her. It was actually after we lost Game 7 in 2009, right? When did the Penguins win the Cup? 2009?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Detroit beat us in Game 7 at home. My boy Cleary scored with like minute 30 left, I think, in front of the net. And apparently, like, according to this woman, he like fired a chair at her, but I don't know if they settled or nothing. I know she sued him. I don't know what ended up happening. You can Google the story and read for yourself. But it was just another example. Like Biz said, I mean, enough people have said enough things where it's like, all right, this guy's got to go. And I don't know if you mentioned this, sorry, RA, at the beginning. I think the league sent out a memo to every team like, hey, find out what's going on in your organization. If there's anything sketchy going on, get rid of the person now after the Blackhawks fiasco. So I think in the end, like, that probably Murray being gone is probably because after the way Chicago fucked the shit out of this Kyle Beach awful situation, the league is like, let's get our P's and Q's figured out here. And because of that, Anaheim ended up realizing they had a real problem with their GM.
I guess the question I have is the people above, him know that, the owners, and then the people between the owners and the GM, he has bosses too. Like, did he just, change his tune when he was around these people?
He said he's dapping up Solani and Getzlaf and then looking at Witt and fucking shaking his head. Right. So I'm sure that those people are being treated with respect because he probably sees them as equals, so to speak. And then obviously down the pecking order, that's when kind of the asshole probably comes out a lot more. But it goes back to the Bettman situation with the whole Blackhawk situation. Like, these are owners of these, these teams and other businesses. So he's busy growing the league where he's probably assuming like, hey, are we all good over there? Like, are you guys like acting accordingly? What's he going to do? Not trust the people that he works for the owners too, by the way. Is he not going to trust that they're not conducting themselves like responsible adults given what they've built and what they own? So so in the case that you're talking about, RA, they probably didn't know to the extent that it was happening, other than maybe that scenario in Detroit that became public. Whit, do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, these owners they're billionaires, and like you said, like, they have a million things going on, and maybe he's very polite and respectful to them, but I will say, you'd think you'd hear some things, as Ari's mentioning, like, but I'll say in the year I was in Anaheim, I went from trade deadline to trade deadline. I like never saw the Samuelis. Like, I think at the beginning of the season when I came back for that next year, we had like, a team get together at his house, but I don't think it was like an owner where he's in the mix that much. So maybe not. But yeah, he's gone now. So. Good for everyone that had to deal with this wrath, because it's stressful as shit every day to have a guy like walking around the office, not just some guy, the guy in charge who's like not only yelling at players, but giving it to like secretaries and shit. It's like, what world are we living in here? I want to do my job at peace. I don't need this stress added to my life that I think you're gonna snap on me at any moment's notice.
Yeah, it's not a comfortable work environment for anybody. No. I know it's pro sports, but there's a level where it shouldn't be passed. And as far as the incident in Detroit, yeah, he pushed a chair. The article said it was accidental. I guess the woman's lawyer, he forgot to fill out like negligible on the lawsuit, so she never actually got money, even though they basically said, oh, he did it, but because the lawyer didn't do the paperwork right, she never actually got a settlement. But they basically. And
there's one other thing I want to say. I don't want to hear anyone like, oh, you can't stand tough love. You can't stand coaches. I can. And there's a time and a place. And there's a time and a place like, all right, you're saying, you're right. In a way, you should never be comfortable when you're in the NHL. And there's people that are coming for your job. But there's a big difference between being hard on a player or being hard on a coach if you're a GM and making their life miserable, because you can be all over a guy who's playing poorly and you can tell him this is bullshit. We need more. You make a lot of money. You're not doing your job. All that stuff's fine. It's when you're a legitimate asshole daily that it just goes to the extreme. So I don't mind at all a coach being hard on guys or a GM being hard on coaches or players, but there's a different extreme to what he was doing.
So, Biz, is the era of the asshole over? I mean, I don't know how many assholes, quote unquote, are still running front office.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so when we were talking about the Babcock situation, like with the thing that he did to Marner, I found that was weird. That was kind of like a power move dynamic. Did you guys hear about him having Tyson Berry show him his phone and like go through his photos to see like his maturity level? Did you guys hear that one? Maybe that was a rumor, but I was like reading that associated to like you said, all the bullies in hockey. I would say that if there are still some, you'll see a very quick turnaround. And yeah, if enough people are willing to come forward, then they might get gas, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't know of any.
There's guys, like I said, who played a long time in the NHL and were treated like shit themselves in the 70s and the 80s. And now they're in positions of power. In the end, can they change? Can they realize, all right, just because it's like being a parent. It's like, you know, your grandfather had it harder than your father had it, and you've had it easier than your father had
right.
it. And in the end, can you switch it up? Can you realize, like, all right, even though I was treated like this, I can't be doing this to the guys I'm now in charge of. So if guys are able to switch it up and realize that times have changed, they should be fine, as long as they didn't go too extreme when the issues were really going on.
We mentioned it in the Terrian situation. I think what interview was that in? But you know how he saw that, and that's probably how he tried to coach by intimidating. And it's and I mean, he's seen
PJ Stock.
It was PJ Stock.
No, it was
Bussy.
No, it was Bussy.
Yeah, because he was talking about the Theo Fleury situation and how he ended up walking to the locker room afterward, or not Theo Fleury, excuse me, Claude Lemieux, and he was yelling into him in French, and then he was like crying, and it's just like he saw that, and he's like, oh, that's how you motivate. So it's like, people are kicking up the dust and making people more aware of it. So it just it smartens these people up.
Well, I think it's safe to say they're all on notice now. So if it's beyond the, I'm not yelling at someone for screwing up. If it goes over the top and, should be dealt with. Now, it's going to get dealt with. So
another guy who kind of seemed to have cleaned it up was Torts, but then he ends up dropping a bomb on your Oilers captain there, Whit.
Oh boy, did he ever, Biz. And you know what? I'm going to surprise some people right now. I love that Torts said that. And hold on. What are you talking about, Whit? You're an Oilers diehard. Once an Oiler, always an Oiler. You got a jersey coming in the mail. You bet him every night. McDavid, McJesus, McDusty's your idol. This is why I love what he said. Because we are paying Tortorella to make headlines and to give takes. And he's on ESPN and he's saying things that get us talking and get the league talking, get the world talking. He's a complete moron for what he said, and he's completely wrong. But I don't want any situation where we ask for takes and comments and opinions on the league, and then guys give them and everyone screams and yells how stupid he is, right? So I did send him an envelope with anthrax. So heads up in your mailbox, Torts. Don't ever talk about McJesus like that again. But he's giving a take that he truly believes is correct. And here's the thing. Who am I to say anything? Because John Tortorella has a Stanley Cup. He knocked off the Tampa Bay Lightning in Columbus a few years back. He's done some special things in the game, and he knows what it takes to win in the playoffs. But if you think that Connor McDavid has to change his game, you're the craziest son of a bitch that's ever walked the planet, because this guy, like I've said before, is the greatest hockey player of all time. You want him to change his game? What are you talking about? Do you know people say Steve Yzerman changed his game and they won Stanley Cup? No. Steve Yzerman had Sergei Fedorov, Nick Lidstrom, Larry Murphy, all the Russians, Konstantinov, Larionov, Brendan Shanahan. Dude, Connor McDavid is an absolute genius on the ice. We need every other player to try to do anything remotely close to what Connor McDavid does. We don't need Connor McDavid doing what some grinder does. Now, yes, in the playoffs, is it harder to score? 100%. But why would he change his game? Okay, in the end, does he need to do a little bit more defensively? I guess you could ask that of anyone, right? Of anyone. Like, yeah, you got to be a little bit more responsibly defensively. Dude, you have the puck the whole game. You create chances every time you're on the ice. You're the fastest skater with the puck the game's ever seen. Nothing about Connor McDavid's game is causing the Oilers to not win the Stanley Cup. There's nothing that has nothing to do with him. And the argument is, wait, you don't know shit. You were a plug. You were brutal. You went to the Cup Finals. You sat on the bench pretty much the whole time. Torts is a Stanley Cup champion. He knows what it takes. Torts, what would Torts be saying when he's telling the world on ESPN for McDavid to shut up? What would he be saying if he was coaching the Oilers? Holy shit, call a fucking penalty on him. He's getting fucking tripped and hooked all game. So enough with the shut up, Connor. Like, dude, I watch every Oilers game, as you know, if you follow me on Twitter. There's 3 penalties a game on him they don't call. And so if he was head coach, he'd be disgusted. So you can say shut up. I don't even think he whines that much. If you look at Crosby's beginning of his career, he whined more than McDavid has. I just don't understand.
Social media wasn't as big. Everything wasn't going as viral and happening fast. Now, I agree with you 100%. He has nowhere near the personnel. Is this the first year where they have a legitimate contender? And they still haven't, some people's opinion, haven't addressed goaltending, right?
Well, 5-on-5, they're struggling a little, but they are a contender this year. No question.
100% contender for the first time, I would say, since he's been an Oiler. So now we can start judging. Now, based on the penalty aspect, there's been a big conversation online because, when playoff starts, all of a sudden they start calling the game a little bit looser. And we all know that, and that's a fact, right? You get away with a little bit more cross checks to here, cross checks to there. So everybody found it weird how many he would normally draw. And then the drop off when playoff came. I don't think he drew one penalty during his 8 playoff games. Or did they get swept by Winnipeg?
They got swept
in the first round, right?
Yep.
So I don't think they called one penalty there. And then in the games leading up to playoffs and even to start the season a little bit. Now, even as a fan, you're starting to notice it. So
everyone's noticing it.
Right.
So that's what makes me wonder. Maybe he is complaining that much and refs are so sick of it. And it's like, maybe it's behind the scene under his breath where like refs are noticeably not calling penalties on him. And maybe there's a whole sense of like, he's so good. We can't help him out even more. Do you know what I mean? It's subconscious.
Do you think this is Torts looking into all those comments about that, where he's like, man, like come playoff time, it's just harder. It's a little bit tougher out there. If he's going to keep complaining and whining and they're going to keep complaining and whining, it's not going to help him in the long run. So he's saying kind of shut up and just like learn how to play through it. That's his opinion on it.
Torts saying shut up, the way he said it's so funny because the guy just knows how to like piss people off. And he's so truly like, what's the word when he's just so authentic. Torts, like he doesn't give a fuck what one person thinks. And the way he said it like pissed people off. But in the end, yeah, dude, I guess you do have to stop complaining if you can't change like their mind. So, but when he said he's got to change his game, that's the thing I took issue with. He does not have to change his game. He doesn't. There's nothing about his game that is causing the Oilers to lose games. The playoffs last year, they didn't play well and their team wasn't very good. This team is way better.
I would say the only complaint in playoffs is he couldn't find the offense that he normally does on a more consistent basis. And I think the argument is it's like, yeah, like it gets way more savage in playoffs, but they need to continue to call those penalties. So I guess his argument is like, if you're complaining now, it's not going to get any easier, and this is going to be the same result. You're going to get swept, and you're going to be out of there. So I agree with you.
Swept this year.
All right, well, we'll see.
See what happens. One other note on the Ducks: Jeff Solomon takes over as the interim GM. He joined Anaheim 6 months ago after spending the previous 15 years with LA. Also, the Ducks on the ice, at least they're doing good there, man. They won the 7th in a row Sunday night. They're second in the West right now. Troy Terry, who we talk about with Coach in a minute, 14-game point streak when he's got 11 goals and 9 assists over that time. His previous career highs was 7 goals and 20 points. So he's lighting it up. The line with Rico, Getzy, and Troy Terry's unbelievable. We talk about John Gibson, what he's been doing out there, and also the D, Shattenkirk, Fowler, Lindholm. Did you boys see that Manson versus Lauzon tilt the other night? Jeremy Lauzon on Seattle? That was like an old-fashioned scrap, man. You don't see too many.
There's been a couple lately. Gabranson, too, for Calgary's been chucking them a lot. There's been some savage throwback fights. The old Donniebrooks.
Yeah. Some like none of that like wrestling, but like guys just standing there and chucking. But I don't know if you guys want to chime in on the Ducks or you just want to go right.
Well, I want to know your opinion on the Torts thing.
Yeah, I think Torts is doing it for dramatic effect a little bit, but I don't know that McDavid doesn't play enough defense. I'm probably not the best judge of that, since I didn't really play the game at a competitive level on the ice. But, you've heard this about other players who, like, they start off early in their career. You just mentioned Yzerman, and Joe Sakic, and, I know Joe Thornton never got his cup, but these guys are just, they're all offense. And then there's a part of the game that they maybe have to pick it up defensively. Now, again, I don't know if that's what McDavid needs to do. I don't think he's keeping him from going on the playoffs, but eventually he's probably going to have to play a solid spectacular two-way game maybe to get to that level.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We're going to find out this year.
Yeah, this year. Are we going to find out a lot of things this year?
And hey, believe me, I love nothing more than to see the kid go on a run too. So, hey, maybe, I don't think he's got Torts on speed dial, but maybe they'll give him a little goose in the ass. And I don't know how much better he can play than he is right now.
Wins the Selkie. Hey, he just goes like full spite mode and like stops producing, just goes shut down. Like,
now that I watch every game, and I'm catching a lot of heat. I can't say Leon's name right. Is it Draisaitl?
Draisaitl. Like,
that's a collab between Drysdale and Draisaitl.
Everyone tells me I add it. I say Draisaitl. That's incorrect. I know that. But everyone out there who's listening, all you guys in the car, all you women on the treadmill, everyone out there listening, you have a word that you can't say. Every human has one word. I happen to have 100, but still. Draisaitl?
I say Draisaitl.
Yeah, this just got it. Yeah.
Okay, Draisaitl.
Bingo.
Now that I watch every game, he is so unreal as well. He's so big. His stride, he just burns away from guys where he doesn't look as fast and dynamic as McDavid, but he gains space and time almost as easily. And his long, thick paddle he has on his stick, he shoots from everywhere.
His backhand shovel.
Dude, he's got 31 points in 14 games. I think the last player to get over 30 points in less than 15 games was Gretzky, who it took 13 games. So, he's on record-breaking, and Gretzky had 205 points that season.
I think when guys put their sock behind their, the tongue on the back, what do you call that thing, that flap?
Oh, like the socks behind the skate?
Yeah.
Like
the heel?
I think when you do that, it naturally makes you look slower.
G put it actually all the way down over the heel.
Fuck off.
Hey, I used to do that in minor
Fuck
hockey.
No.
I used to do that in minor hockey. I had the worst. If I could get a picture of the way I had the
worst style ever all the way up to the show. Nobody rivals.
I actually think that it fits Draisaitl. I like the fact that he does that. It just kind of separates him in the gear wear aspect.
So he does it, Kane does it, and Kucherov does it. Are the three guys I'm really thinking of that go socks over the.
Does that?
Kucherov does it too, and I even think Point does it too, and I think Hedman does it. I think a lot of more players than you think do it. My legs were so skinny, I started doing it at the end because I had to like tape my ankle on one of the feet, and I looked. Oh, it was just so bad with my terrible Easton skates. I hate the fact that my gear wear. At least if I had cool gear wear, I'd look cool in the cards when I could show Ryder someday and Wyatt. But now they're like, dude, what? That looks like a fake photo shoot for a commercial for Discover.
Malkin used to do it, but then he stopped doing it. He
goes back and forth everything
all the time. He changes up the visors nonstop, the helmets. Yeah, he's all over the place. I looked like a figure skater because at one point I would even pull it over the toe.
God, dude.
Oh, I'm serious. When they used to have
what kind of socks did you have on? They were like
we used to have the
blanket.
The old wool ones, that had the elastic band, the old thick socks. If I could get some pictures of the way that I used to wear the bottom of my socks, you guys might kick me off the podcast. You might give RA more credibility as far as playing than me once you see my greasy gear wear.
Dude, when I first went to the Kings, I've told this story. My dad actually gave me shit. He's like, it wasn't me, it was your mom. Well, my mom bought me a yellow helmet. And on the yellow helmet, dude, it was a red, white, and blue team. On the yellow helmet, I had one of those combos where it was shield and cage, like the iTech combo. I think it went cage, shield, cage. So yeah, and with my height, dude, I told you, 8th grade, 6'3", 155 pounds. Can you imagine what that looked like in gear?
You looked like a lollipop.
I was the same height as I am now, and I was 60 pounds lighter.
You look like a Tootsie Pop.
I looked like a fucking pencil neck geek.
Anyway, hey, so we
still am one.
Since we're on the topic of the coaches and stuff, I think we should probably throw over to Stutzy.
Absolutely.
Oh, this guy was great.
Yeah, good call, Biz. This is a great interview, man. I wasn't sure what to expect with early morning interview with an older guy, but it was fantastic. You folks are going to learn a lot. It's good stuff. But we do want to let you know that this interview is brought to you by our friends at Cross Country Mortgage. Cross Country Mortgage is much like us at Barstool, a people-first group of people. They're dedicated to the fundamentals of mortgage lending, which results in a fast, convenient, and less stressful home financing or refinancing experience. And right now, rates are unbelievably low. Don't pay the bank more money than you need to. If you're in the market, want to check them out by all means, because Cross Country Mortgage makes the process as painless and simple as possible and helps you to keep your money in your pocket so you can do fun things with it, like take trips to Vegas or go to a Bruins game or buy a new HD TV. If you're a homeowner and you haven't refied lately, you could be leaving thousands or even tens of thousands on the table. And that's money that could go toward a shed toy or some pocket cash or whatever. Rates are at an all-time low and may never get this low again. So again, check out our good friends over at Cross Country Mortgage. They do a great job. Call them today for a fast, free, great quote and a free home valuation. And when you do, tell them Barstool sent you. Go to crosscountrymortgage.com/Barstool to learn more about your future home buying experience or refinance your current mortgage. Cross Country Mortgage, LLC, NMLS 3029. All loans subject to underwriting approval, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. And now, enjoy Mike Stothers. It's a pleasure to welcome our next guest. After playing professionally for 11 seasons, he began coaching and had stops in the OHL, WHL, NHL, and the AHL, where he won the 2015 Calder Cup as head coach of the Manchester Monarchs with our buddy Biz. And today he's an assistant coach with the red-hot Anaheim Ducks. Thanks a bunch for joining us on the Spittin Chiclets podcast, Mike Stothers. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing good. This is a little earlier than what used to on this show, but thanks for joining us this early. I know it's 6 o'clock out west. How's things going, man? You guys are red hot so far.
Well, you know what? We can't complain, right? We've exceeded expectations thus far. We're on a pretty good roll at the moment. I think maybe LA is the only team that's hotter than us. But you know what? It's a long season, so we'll take this good time right now because we know there's going to be some ebbs and flows. And but you know what? It feels good. It feels good for the Ducks, that's for sure.
Stutzy, do you got your Crocs on right now?
I absolutely do, Bill. You know what? I knew. There you go, buddy.
No surprise that you scheduled a fucking interview for 7 a.m. You're already at the rink. When you were our head coach, you'd be there and you'd be thinking about the player meeting on Monday or the leadership group meeting, and your wheels would be turning. And we get in there, and once in a while, I'd get the invite in the room, and you'd be red hot if we didn't have a good weekend.
Well, you know what? That's debatable because I always thought they were like, positive in the fact that we were playing well or whatever. And you guys always dreaded coming in because you didn't quite know the mood that I was going to be in and everything else. And then it was like, even if we won all 3 games on the weekend, it was like, we can always do something better. So you guys were like, holy fuck, we can never make this guy happy.
A little bit different as an assistant, if you're a little bit red in the face, but we always focus because in the AHL you have the 3-on-3s. You got to win the Sunday game, so Stutzy would be in a good mood Monday and or Tuesday if we had the day off.
Well, you know what? We always tried to get that one day off a week. I think it was good for you guys. It was good for me as a coach. You guys away from me, and more importantly, me away from you guys, because you know what? A week with you was plenty, maybe too much.
Well, I want to ask you about how did this job even come up? I know that you coached against the Dallas Eakins, and there was a bit of a connection there when he was with the San Diego Gulls. So, when did you get the call? Like, what were your expectations, and so on and so forth?
Well, it happened, later part of the summer. I think the organization here was looking to make some changes to the coaching staff. Dallas reached out to me. I've known Dallas for years. Like, we played against each other all through the American Hockey League. We've coached against each other, and I wouldn't say we knew each other well, but certainly we had a good cordial relationship. He reached out and asked if I'd even be interested first and foremost, and I responded, of course, yes. Got a call from Bob Murray. It was interesting. Probably the shortest coaching interview I've ever had. Usually they want video and they want some kind of a presentation and whatever. And he says, I only got one question for you. And I said, okay. And he said, well, what happened in LA? And I said, well, you know what? I honestly don't know. But I think maybe it was just time for a change. And he said, okay, I'm going to call you tomorrow. make you an offer. So now I'm just giddy with excitement. So I've dropped the phone. I'm telling my wife, I said, I think we're going back to California. 8 days later, I still haven't heard from Bob. And I'm going, how in the fuck did I fuck that up? Just saying goodbye. So anyway, as it turns out, we got the deal done, and I was able to join Dallas and his staff, and they brought in Jeff Ward and Newell Brown. And I'll tell you what, it's a terrific staff. And you realize just how good the players are. The room itself is terrific. And now it's just a matter of, trying to get that winning culture and make the guys feel good about themselves, because they've had, the last couple of years, it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
I love Newell Brown. He was actually in Anaheim when I was there, so you got to tell him I said hello. But for your role with the Ducks, what are you coaching the D? Are you doing the PK? What's your role exactly?
Well, I'm coaching the D and running the PK.
Nice. No PP, Stutsy?
No, I stay out of that one. Those meetings, I don't even attend. So it's just better that I look after the other end of things. But you know what? We've got contributions from everybody. So it's good. Newell's been here. I think this is his third time back with Anaheim. Like I said, it's been a good staff, and things are going real well right now. And a lot of it is because of the players and the buy-in. And probably most importantly, we've had some good solid goaltending from both Gibson and Stolarz.
So this season, this off season, I should say, the thing in Anaheim that was odd is there wasn't many changes made, right? They didn't do much. They didn't go out and sign a lot of guys, but because of that, it was not very high expectations. I know we talked about the team. We didn't expect much. And now you've seen this hot start. Was there a lot of talk in camp between the coaching staff and the players like, guys, everyone's counting you out. Nobody thinks you can do anything? Or was it more, let's just go about our business the way we know we can?
Well, you're right. I think the biggest and probably the only major changes was behind the bench, right? So, you know what? It was a chance or an opportunity for these guys that were here in the past and maybe, had some off years numbers wise, to regroup, refocus, reset, for lack of a better word. And you know what? We came in with an open mind. We didn't know these players, so we didn't already have an opinion about what they could or could not do. It was kind of like, show us what you can do. And I think it was a clean slate for everybody. And they've responded exceptionally well thus far. And you know what? We've done it even though we've had some injuries too. We've lost Raquel and Silverberg for extended periods of time as well as others. And we just keep getting contributions probably from those guys that, just wanted that second or third opportunity.
Mike, I know some of your former AHL players appreciated your very direct style. Did you have to adjust anything going back into an NHL assistant role, especially the way things have changed culturally in hockey the last 10 years?
Well, it's much different in the assistant coaching position. It's more of a supporting of the head coach. You know what? It's maybe not quite as intense as you are as a head coach. Biss can vouch for the fact that I'm a pretty intense individual.
You don't see the veins in his forehead when he shows up to the rink.
Well, you know what? I mean, there's a lot going on, right? And you want to get the most out of everybody. And there's a lot of buttons to be pushed. And Biss can vouch for the fact that it's worthwhile when you win a championship. I mean, all those meetings and all those hard days at the rink pay off. But in order to do so, you've got to have the support of others. And when I was a head coach, I had some great assistant coaches. Chris Height was phenomenal for us in Manchester and then in Ontario. So I'm just trying to lend my support to Dallas in any way I can. And again, it's kind of like, you grab guys, you pick up the pieces and you try to not necessarily be their friend, but you're a little bit, it's easier, I guess, for the players to talk to the assistant coaches than maybe the head coach.
Stutzy, I feel like as an assistant, you get to like chum it up with the players a little bit more and maybe observe more of the locker room chemistry because the head coach is a little bit more occupied. Is it pretty funny given how many young guys are in that locker room and seeing guys like Getzlaf interact with maybe some of these young, I don't want to say cocky is the word, but they got a pep in their step for sure. Is it fun seeing that interaction?
Well, it is. And we have a good mix. Obviously, Getzy, I think it's 17 seasons he's got behind him. And he's interacting with we've got McTavish, who's 18. We've got Drysdale, who's 19. and Zegras, who I think just turned 20. And it is a little bit different. Like, you know, you got Zegras, great personality, fun-loving guy. Doesn't matter if you're the coach or the GM, he calls you dude, you know. He's got the hat.
We know. Golf with this goon
and everything else. And it's like, you know what? He wants to be the last guy to the meetings and everything else. And it's like, yeah, this guy's got a little bit of arrogance to him. But you know what? It's different. It's not annoying. Not yet. I mean, it's not annoying. And you know what those guys are like? Those guys can be fucking assholes when they've got a little bit too much. And then you just gotta, you know what, have them take a step back. So no, they've been fun. And you know what, Getsy's been great at working with all these guys, and it's a good mix right now. So we're real happy with the situation.
Well, that's
Biz. Also, this is a night after Zegras had 2 tucks too, so it's a little easier to pump his tires right now after he got.
He had a big night. He had 2 and he had an apple with a backhand blind. Which, I mean, if it didn't work out, he was probably getting chewed out when he came back to the bench. But when everybody's arms are going up, it's like, great play, kid, keep it up.
Yeah. I had the over in that game. Thank you. So I know you're coaching the D, and you got these vets. You got Shaddy, Fowler, Manson, and then there's Drysdale. And I'm just so interested because the stuff I've read, forget his skill, his compete level, but I heard he's so competitive in terms of if he has a bad game, he gets down on himself, right? So are you working with him like, hey, it's going to be ebbs and flows, kid, realize it's not always going to be easy for you at the beginning of your career?
Well, you know what? He is wound pretty tight. I mean, a terrific athlete. His skating is exceptional. It allows him to do a lot of things that other, you know, the young defensemen can't do. But the situation is now with Dries is he can be very hard on himself, whether it's a shift or a period. And as you know, Whit, it's all about letting it go, right? I mean, you make the mistake, you come back to the bench, and you got to move on. Like, there's plenty of shifts ahead of you, and you can't let it eat away at you. And also for Dries, he's playing with Lindholm, who's a real solid veteran NHL defenseman. But he's playing against the other team's top lines. I mean, we're not that deep on the back end. So he's forced to play in situations that, you know what, ordinarily he might not be ready for, which is in itself a lot of pressure. And, you know, he wants to do well. I know earlier on in the year, he might have been leading the league. He might have been wearing the green jacket for the minuses, but he's kind of whittled it away. And it's something that we talk about. And it's more just positive reinforcement for Dries, and the fact that let's not keep dwelling on the negatives. Let's just keep showing the positives. So we do a lot of video together. We talk a lot, but he's got, like you said, Shattenkirk. Oh man, what a true professional and a great guy in the back end. This guy's got future coach written all over him. You know, Manson is as solid as an individual as you're ever going to run into. And Cam Fowler, I mean, he's an elite defenseman that nobody talks about, a little bit more quiet. But you know what? They carry themselves well. And as I said, Lindholm has been excellent for Dries as well.
I heard Getsy had them bring in Shaddy, so he'd have the second worst salad on the team. Is that true? Any truth to that rumor?
That's so dirty from Bez. What a prick.
Oh, come on. Shaddy will be able to take it. And Whit refers to Getsy as monkey bum because he's got the monkey bum on the top of his head.
Well, it's funny because, you know, every time Getsy comes back to the bench, he's taking the helmet off and he's rubbing the head with a towel. Whereas Shaddy, if he gets into a scrum and his helmet pops off, he's down on all fours trying to get it back on his head.
I think we had Keith Jones on the podcast recently, and he told a story about Ally Afraidy getting his helmet popped off, and he did the same army crawl out of the pile to grab his helmet so nobody could see it. But I want to talk about another young guy, Troy Terry, who, you know, you guys have a bunch of guys who are trying to take that next step. And all of a sudden this year, man, he's came out of his shell and probably on the scene to potentially get invited to the Olympics at this point, given his experience with the international play. Like, I know you weren't there last year. Like, what's been the difference so far, at least from what you've heard?
Well, you know what? He benefits a lot from playing on a line with Getsy. You know, you can say whatever you want. Maybe he's slowed down a step, Getsy. But honest to God, for a big man, like, he's got an unbelievable set of mitts, and he makes passes that every day just drops your jaw. Like, you can't believe it. I watch it in practice. I watch it in the game. So, you know, Terry's been the benefactor of that. And then, you know, when we've had Rico on the left side on that line, it's been real good. But Terry's come in again. He came in with a fresh attitude, and he got off to a little bit of a slow start to the fact that we actually made him a healthy scratch very early on in the season. And then, you know what? We talked to him. He took it the right way, and then he has been on fire ever since. And I think might have the longest active point streak in the league at the present time. But you know what? This kid's got some sick skills. The moves, the way he sees the ice, and they really complement each other. Him and Getzy, and he's been lights out for us.
Last night in the game, it was great. I think late in the third, Pedersen was wheeling through the neutral zone biz, and Getzy just buried him. Like, it was the most classic veteran on a younger player type play. And then he went back to the bench. And I actually thought, like, is Dallas Eakins probably using Getzy? Not at all like a player coach, but he must really talk to him and trust him with how long he's been there and how much he knows about the game in terms of like preparing for other teams and getting ready to play around this league.
Well, you know what? They have a great relationship. Dallas and Getzy talk every day about a number of things. Sometimes it's not even hockey related. It might be about Getzy's 4 kids or whatever, what they got planned for
14
the off season. Very young kids. And so that's important, right? You should have a good relationship with your leadership and certainly your captain. And I think Dallas and Getzy have a terrific relationship. And you know what, as coaches, we're able to, ask questions of, okay, listen, how are you guys feeling? Do you need a day off, or is this a maintenance day? You're going to get the honest answer, right? You're not going to get oh yeah, of course we want the day off. It's, like if he says, I think everybody should skate, or maybe he himself needs to skate, we buy into it. If he says maybe they need to back off a little bit. So he's in touch with what's going on in the locker room with the players, right? And then that play you're talking about last night, like, at one point I was a little bit worried that, with this new cross-checking thing that they're trying to put into the game, he might have got a penalty, but it was more like he bench pressed Peterson. Like, it was unbelievable. He launched him from like the blue line to the center ice red line, and then he just went off the ice like it was nothing. And you know what? If Getzy, I think he, because of the respect in the league, those marginal ones that maybe the referees like to call on other individuals, they let slide with Getzy because they know, like, he's a competitor, right? And he is a beast. So yeah, I don't know if Peterson liked that too much, but it was certainly an important part of the game for us.
I was just going to ask quickly. I was talking to Rick Tocchet, and we were talking about tough guys in the league, and he mentioned Delorier and how much of an impact he can have on the game. And you guys even got him killing penalties right now. Do you think that gives the other guys, especially the younger guys, a little bit of extra room out there?
Well, you know what? We've actually had Des on the line with Zegras to kind of give him a little bit of a protection. But Des is an interesting story. Biss, you know what? He started out as a defenseman. He's a forward now. He actually played in Manchester before you and I got there. I think it was the year before you and I.
Yep.
And he's had to work at it. We were talking about it the other day when we were in Seattle, and you know what? He wasn't a physical guy. He wasn't a guy that dropped the mitts. He had to learn as he was going. And much like yourself, I mean, he said, how am I going to make it in the NHL? What niche can I fit into? Recognize that he needed to be, kind of the enforcer, if you will. And then he, took on that role, and he's broadened his game to the point where, he's a real good, responsible player on the ice that you could probably use if you had the goalie out and you're protecting a lead. We use him on the PK. He's fearless. He'll block shots. And more importantly, and you certainly can relate to this, it's kind of nice when the coaches can give a guy a tickle like that, right? Give him some extra minutes, right? He's doing all the dirty work. He's doing all the heavy lifting for our team. And you just reward him by giving him, hey, here's a bone. Like, take this PK on like it's your own, and you'll get yourself on the ice that much more. And he loves it. So it's a win-win for all of us. But certainly Des is a great story, and another guy I think that has like 4 kids. So there must be something in the water out here in California. But you know what? It's a great story, and if you ever wanted to delve into it deeper, it's well worth documenting.
I want to go back to Terry for a second. Is he sort of maybe the latest example of why teams should probably be patient with some prospects and not give up on them early?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know what? It takes guys, sometimes a couple of years to feel comfortable on the ice, and do what they can do best. Again, we go back to say, let's talk about Drysdale, right? So if you let those early mistakes get to you, you probably stop trying to do the things that got you to this league or to this level. So I think it's been a little bit of give and take for Tara and the coaching staff, maybe past and present. There's going to be some hiccups in his game. He's going to probably try some things. The puck management probably isn't always what the coaching staff's looking for late in a period or late in the game, but you don't want to stifle a guy that's as creative as he is. So you've got to find that happy medium. And you know what? For the most part, his positives far, far outweigh any negatives he has with maybe trying to do too much.
I love getting to ask you about certain guys in this roster, because the same way you mentioned people don't talk about Fowler and a lot of the D-men, a lot of the Ducks don't get a lot of love just because of where the games are played. And because of that, like Mason McTavish this year, right? He's an 18, 19-year-old kid. He's been up and down a little bit. But what type of player are you looking at? Like, what's the ceiling, and what have you seen so far in terms of playmaking ability and offensive style?
Well, you know what, Mac T, I was fortunate enough to have him at the under-18, the World Championship. Okay. And you know what?
Dominated there, right?
Yeah, he certainly did. And you know what? The talk was Connor Bedard and Shane Wright, and rightfully so. Like those guys, I think this is Shane Wright's year to be drafted. He's probably going to be, maybe considered number one overall, and certainly the next year, Bedard. But you know what? The guy that led the team, kind of said, "Jump on my back," and away we go. Was McTavish, right? We had him, in all situations. He was center iceman. And when you get into a tournament like that and somebody's able to elevate their play, that's telling you something about, he's a big game guy. So he's in that tournament, I mean, he looks like he's about 32. So it was a matter of, he was more mature than all the other guys he was playing against. And in here, he's still fitting in. He's doing a good job. Now, the thing with Mac T, as you guys know, he can only play 9 games, and we've got to make a decision. Is he staying, or is he going to go back to junior? Now that's still up in the air, but his play is telling us that he warrants being on the roster. He's fit in, and he has been in and out of the lineup. He did get injured there and had to go down. He had a 2-week assignment down in San Diego. And from all the reports I got there, Whit was, he was the best player on the team there. So, you know what? You've got a guy that's, in my opinion, he can't play forever. So who's going to be that next guy down the middle that plays hard, physical, kind of a smash mouth game where he can beat you with some skill and some talent, or he'll just basically run right through you, smack you in the mouth, and put it in the back of the net. So you know what? He's an interesting kid, and I think that he's going to have a hell of a career.
Mike, I'm sure you were familiar with a lot of the roster coaching against them in the AHL, but who has really surprised you, maybe as a person, as a player, someone you didn't expect to jump out at you like that?
Well, there's a few of them. I mean, again, the Ducks, they don't get a whole lot of love. Nobody's talking about them. But I got to go back to Cam Fowler. I did not realize how good he is. First of all, I didn't realize how big he is. I thought he was a much smaller guy. And man, like his efficiency getting around the ice is incredible. Like he can skate, great vision and puck distributor. And the amazing thing about him is, there's been a lot of nights where, we've rode him hard. Like he's played a lot of minutes, and he's one of those guys, he comes back to the bench and you think, oh man, we got to bypass him. We got to sit him out. And he's ready to go. So like his engine is extraordinary. And I think if he was in a bigger hockey market, probably people would be talking about him more. Now, the other side of that is Cam doesn't seem to be one of those guys that needs that adulation. No. He's quite comfortable just being in the background in that supportive role. So maybe it works into his favor. And the other guy, I had a pretty good idea that he was good, but Gibson,
he's not. Again,
let's go back. I mean, we've got a pretty good thing going here, but as everybody knows, it's all about your goaltending, right? And Gibby's been terrific, and he's bailed us out when we've, maybe started a game a little bit sluggish. Maybe we've spent a little bit too much time at our end. Maybe because of our youth, we have some poor decisions in the back end, and we spend a little bit too much time in our D zone. But he's always there. He's a wall. He knows when to get a face off. Like this guy, if they do get a shot on net, he purposely knocks it, and the rebound goes not back out to the slot area, but up into the meshing so we can get a face off. Like, he reads the game. And again, I think more people would be talking about him if perhaps we weren't playing in Anaheim.
Stutzy, going back to Fowler and his efficiency, like, do you mean in a sense of like not wasting energy throughout a game where he's going to have to play 25, 30 minutes? And is that something that you kind of try to teach to Drysdale? Because you said he can get away with a lot because of his skating, but I find these young guys, they tend to just like extend shifts and try these extra things at the next level where they can find themselves in trouble a lot.
Cam Fowler is the epitome of efficiency and knows just, when he has to turn it, when he can just, settle it back, sit back in the pocket and just distribute the puck, or he knows when to open it up and join the rush. Dries as a young kid, he's full out, like he's balls out every time. Right. So it's
dude,
listen, it's crazy, this kid, but we've got to dial that back a little bit for him. And hopefully, as I said, Cam's a great example for him. And I don't know if his constitution will ever get to the point where Cam is, where he can just play, probably 30 minutes a night. But certainly it's a good role model for the young Drysdale. Yeah.
Given the rivalry between LA and Anaheim, was it pretty easy to turn the hate on, considering you were on the other side for a while?
Well, considering the way it ended in LA, yeah, that wasn't a problem. So, no, you know what? I mean, it doesn't really matter the uniform. I mean, once you're with an organization, it's pretty easy to get jacked up. And I say that kiddingly about LA. You know what? For a lot of years, what was it, 6-7 years, Biss? It was an intense rivalry between the Kings and the Ducks, and then certainly with Ontario and
San Diego.
And San Diego was probably one of the most intense rivalries ever. And now that I'm on the other side, I mean, you know what? I got a lot of respect for the people in the organization with the Kings. I'm happy that they're actually having some success. They treated me very well. I know, Biss, I know you've raved about how they looked after you. And really, we can't complain. Just the fact that I'm not there anymore. I don't hold it as a personal grudge. But yes, there is a little extra incentive. I think we play them November 30th in Staples Center. And I have that marked on the calendar. I'm looking forward to it. So, but no, it's just one of those things. You know what? Things happen in the game, and it's given me an opportunity to learn from different coaches, meet different people. And I think that's the best part of the social aspect of it. Doesn't matter what locker room you're walking into, you got friends for life.
Do you and Dallas ever talk about your rift between with Big Earn? Because when we were playing these games for whatever reason, I don't know if Big Earn just didn't like you, but he started chirping at Stutzy. So
he chirped at Terrian too. He always chirped the other team's coaches.
Oh, was that a common thing? So I ended up having to fight the guy twice. I was like, fucking, I'm like Stutzy, for the first time, please don't say anything back.
Well, no, I don't know what it was between him and I, but we always had the tough teams, right? And they always had their fair share of tough guys like himself and Gazdic and everything else, right? And you know, Biss, it's like nobody wants to back off, nobody wants to give an inch. So if they threw a tough guy over the boards, we were throwing a tough guy over the boards, and vice versa. So, you know what, you had your meetings with Big Earn, but I don't know. I don't know if it was because I was like looking at him or whatever. That he comes over the one time, remember, and he's like, "You ready to go, big boy?" And I'm like, fuck, man, I'm standing here in a sport coat and a tie. I haven't had a fight in about 20 years. So, and anyway, and you, like you say, oh, you had to fight him. How about the time? I think you just had your knee done, and it was like one of your first games back in Ontario, and Big Earn was running around out there, and you're like tapping me and going, Stutz, put me out. And I'm like, no, Biss, I'm not putting you out. And you're like, put me out. So finally I put you out. And what do? You went right after him. You fought him right away. And I'm thinking, holy
fucking
shit.
Biz.
You just had your knee like surgically repaired, and here you
I hadn't done the surgery yet. I did the 2.5 months of prehab to get the thing going, and then I think like 4 shifts into that game, I was done again for another month.
Listen, you overshot that by 2 shifts. You get 2 shifts again. That's it.
That's unreal.
I got to talk about, so you leave the WHL, Moose Jaw, you get to Manchester, you end up winning it all that year. And Biz has talked a lot, right? Like Biz was in Portland, he got let go and he called you and you brought him in and really kind of made it one of the most special years in his career. What do you remember about when Biz joined that team? And what do you remember about, talking to the LA Brass about, hey, I'm going to bring this kid in. What do you think?
Well, here's how it played out. Biz was playing, I think he was on a 25-game tryout with Portland. So we're playing in Portland, and the benches after the end of the periods or after the game, you have to actually walk across the ice. So we played, and the players actually crossed the middle of the ice, which is crazy. In the old days, that would have never happened, but in today's game, they all hug it out and everything else. But anyway, so Biss, he comes right up and he goes, Stats, he says, my PTO is just about out with these guys. He says, you got to get me, I want to play for you a match and everything else. I'm like, okay, first of all, Biss, can we have this discussion somewhere other than center ice in the Portland arena? So, you know what? We have obviously a mutual friend and the GM in Owen Sound, Mike Futa. So talked to Futs, and it was not that easy of a sell. For me, it was easy. For Futs, it was easy. We had to convince Dean Lombardi. And, Dean was kind of like, he knew about Biss and he likes the social media and whatever. And Dean was so adamant, like he'd be just calling Futs and I in and going, this fucking guy, I better not see these tweets and this and that and the other thing. So, you know what? He wasn't sold. And then, Biss comes in and he was the perfect guy for our room. Like we had a good team. Yes. But you know what? He filled a physicality role, but more importantly, it was the glue guy in our locker room. So Biss comes in, practice ends, and you know what? He's still there at like 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's not because he's lifting weights or working out. He's just still telling stories. And now our guys are now spending more time at the rink. So the one day, our equipment guy comes in, he goes, Stutz, he says, can you talk to Biss? He says, fuck, we got to get out of here. We got to get the laundry in and this and that and the other thing. And I said, listen, you'll stay here as long as Biss stays here. I said, do you see what's happening with this team? To the point where it went even further. So now Dean Lombardi, he likes to come down and spend like a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks down in Manchester with us, right? So he's hanging around. And all of a sudden, he comes through my office door, and you never knew what was on Dean's mind at that time. So like, you know what? I could be getting chewed out or whatever. He comes in and he says, that fucking Bissonnette, he says, he's outstanding. And I was like, it kind of took me aback because of what he had said before. But he actually saw Biss work in the room and being that glue guy. And he was like head and shoulders, like he was one of the biggest Biss fans that ever was, to the point where Biss, like after games, he'd walk right up to you if we had a good weekend or the win or a couple of wins. He'd give you the team card and say, take the boys out and everything else.
Well,
go ahead.
Not at that point. I think I got enough of it when I ended up in Ontario. But I would grill Vinny and the other guys to go get the card from him, and we would abuse that fucking thing. Holy shit!
Yeah, but you know what was even more bizarre is like Dean he'd look at it, he'd say to me, that's it? That's all they did? He says, how can they have fun?
Well, it's Manchester. Like, we went and blew the whole town up and it only cost $4 grand.
Cigarettes are like $2 up there still.
That just goes to show you, like, you know what, Dean was, a wise enough guy to realize that it's not all about the skill guys and the talent. And I'm not saying that Biss didn't contribute in that part either, but it's more important about the character and the guys you have in your room. And if you're going to win a championship, man, you've got to have the glue guys like the Bissonnettes. And who else did we have?
We had Grattan.
Yeah.
Sabs was a glue guy too. I mean, we just had so many great. I mean, Backy was awesome.
Dowd, right? We interviewed Dowd. He was hilarious.
It was a special group, and I could just tell the minute I got there, I'm like, oh my god, these guys all really get along, and they're all very talented players.
Yeah, but Holdy was disappointed with the laundry, man. He wanted you in and out of there.
That's true. Yeah, I'm a bit of a rink rat. So, but Stutzy, to back it up, like even going back to like the start of your coaching career, is it so drastically different about how you have to approach the players and how like you kind of have to conduct a locker room?
Yeah, it's very much different. I mean, I look back from even back when I started, and I got drafted way back in 1980. So I've pretty much had a long road of seeing how the game has evolved to I go to my first training camp and guys are smoking. There's ashtrays in their stalls and everything else. And then now everybody's rolling out and drinking water and everything else. So that's kind of changed. But, the approach from the coach, especially the head coach, like we never talked to the head coach. Your biggest fear was ever being at the hotel and the elevator door opening up. You had to share a ride up to the 7th floor with the head coach, right? Like it was just a disaster. So, you know what? I think the guys now, and I think it's evolved in the right way, Biss. I mean, you know what? I think there's a lot of respect involved on both sides. You know what? And the players, they want to have a little input. They ask a lot of questions, probably more so than we did in the past. And you know what? It's a fine line because you know what? You want to be intense. You want to push. I think the biggest thing is you want to push guys in a positive way beyond their comfort level, kind of make themselves comfortable being uncomfortable. And, a lot of times you're still required to motivate and whatever, but I think there's a tone that is different. I think there's a dialogue and a verbiage that's different. And I think that's a positive thing. And, you know what? I think the game's going in the right direction. And again, it's the staffs are bigger too, Biss, right? Like before it was maybe just the one coach. So you only had one guy to talk to if you were a player. Now, you've got an extended coaching staff. And if you feel comfortable with one guy as opposed to another guy, you can, as a player, you can pull him aside and maybe watch video or just, shoot the shit or whatever you need to do. But, I think it's really good. The knowledge, the availability with the video and the things that you can correct and do so immediately. The guys have the iPads on the bench. They use those constantly. As you saw how long it took me to hook up with you guys. I don't touch an iPad.
When we started in junior, you used to have the laser pointer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I still like that. I still like kind of the old fashioned way of doing things. Even for recording drills, everybody's got their computers out with the drill draw. I've still got the little Sharpie and a pad of paper with the rinks that I draw on myself and everything else. But I mean, I have evolved. I am a little bit better with the social media and the mechanics that go along with that. But again, it's just the way the game's going, and I think it's a positive for everybody.
I would love to chat with Dallas Eakins once, because you look around the league and like Mike Sullivan or Bruce Cassidy, that it's not easy the first time as a head coach, and you learn and you become better the second time. And have you talked to him about the time in Edmonton and, he took away the snacks from the reporters? Has he talked about how much he's changed as a coach?
Well, you know what? We've never really delved into it in depth. I know it's still a sore spot for Dallas, and not so much for himself personally. Is more about, his family, what they had to endure during that time in Edmonton. And as a parent, that's your worst fear. Your kids are going to school and kids will be kids, right? They're probably just repeating what they heard their parents say. And you know what, it can be a little bit harsh. And I think that's what upsets you the most. It's a situation, even when you get fired as a coach, the hardest thing to do is to go tell your kids, because you know what, everybody idolizes their parents and their dad. And when we're hurting, they're hurting. And certainly if somebody's upset your kids, like, if somebody ever upset my daughters, it was not a good thing, right? Like it was, and I feel for Dallas in that regard, but it's good that he's had that experience to go through it. And now he was given a second opportunity, and he's making the most of it, and he's doing a hell of a job here in Anaheim. And you know what? I think that's it's something to be said. Like, again, like we talked about Troy Terry and others, like, you know what? Everybody deserves a second, third chance, and you just become better as you go and get the experience. And as you guys know, as players, you need the reps, right? You need the ice time, you need the minutes. If you're going to improve, you don't want to improve sitting in the stands or sitting on the bench. So you got to get out there and get in the trenches. And I think Dallas is a real good example of that.
Mike, I want to go back to your situation LA again. You were with them for quite a while. Was there any panic when they didn't renew your contract in 2020? Were you kind of, shit, what do I do now? Or did you figure something would eventually come, or what?
Well, you know what? Anytime you're going into a season on the last year of your contract, it's not a good situation to have. So, yeah, as much as you say to yourself, wow, it'll take care of itself, and you're not really going to think about it. You can't help it, right? And there's decisions certainly in the American Hockey League your roster changes so much. And again, we're all evaluated on wins and losses. So, there's times when guys are getting called up, and I guess that's a good reflection on the coaching staff that guys are getting called up, but your lineup going into a weekend is pretty thin or lacking a lot of experience. So you think about those things, and eventually it comes around. And I had kind of a feeling that, there was probably going to be some alterations or some changes made, but still it's a shock. Like when you get the call and it hits you like a ton of bricks, and especially the way it happened for me, and the fact that, COVID comes in and everything's changed. The whole world's upside down, and I end up back in Canada, and we, the best we could do was Zoom, like we are here. Right. So we had meetings all year long, or all summer long, regarding, the players and where we thought they were going to be in the future. And, as the summer goes on, you're thinking, okay, well, things are probably going to work out. Like they're asking me to do reports and presentations on the pros and cons of players and where we project them. And I'm thinking, okay, so we do that. And then every Friday, we get together as a Reign coaching staff and management staff, and just because everybody was in different locations, we just kind of keep in touch with each other. And so then all of a sudden, Mike Futa got let go. And, it was like 2 weeks after that, we had one of those Friday afternoon Zoom calls saying, hey, how's it going? What are you guys doing? How's things? And then, I got off that. I looked at my cell phone and it was like, call Rob Blake. And I was like, okay, this isn't good. And it wasn't a great conversation, but in fairness, I think it was actually harder on Blakey than it was on me. Like I could see that he was conflicted about it. He didn't feel real comfortable about it. And you know what? It's one of those ones where you just kind of, like I just said to him, I said, listen, you know what? It's your decision. I'm never going to grovel for my job. I said, I think it's the wrong decision, but hey, whatever. Where do we go next? And we moved on to, like, what do you do with your laptop? What do you do with your phone? Like, what, things like that. And
smash them.
No, well, you know what, Vince? It's funny because, at first you're hit and you're kind of like bewildered and you're like, holy fuck, what am I going to do next? And then you get into that rage, like then that anger comes in. And then that's because, you've seen your wife, who's your biggest supporter. Now, like nothing bothers my wife except for when you lose your coaching job. And it's like, okay, so now she's the kids.
I think she probably sees how much you put into it. And that's what it's hard. I'm a little bit biased because I loved you as a coach. I had you in junior, I had you in the American League. We ended up winning together. I understand like you keep the guys accountable nonstop and you put your heart and soul into it. So I know how much it affected you. So I could only imagine how much it affected your wife.
Well, best, like, again, like, I don't know, and I can't speak for everybody, but, like, I love my players. Like, you know what, like, there's a lot of, we're going to work, like, and I think that's something you try to instill in them, whether it's you're an athlete or life lessons about what you're going to do as a parent or getting a job after the game ends. So yeah, she does see what goes into it, and it hurts. And so then you get into that, you're angry at the world type of thing. And then you just get into the next stage of the grieving process, I guess, is, okay, where am I going next? And then you kind of get excited for, okay, what next opportunities out there? Where would we like to land? How would this like suit us best? And sometimes it takes a while. This time, because of COVID and this situation, it went on a lot longer than I would have liked. It was, and that in itself was pretty tough. Actually, everybody dealing with COVID, the fact that we couldn't even see our kids and grandkids when we first got home, and then it was limited in that regard. And you needed that comfort, right? Like I hadn't even met my granddaughter, and the first time I saw her was through the living room window at my house in Owen Sound, and she couldn't come in, and she was just about a year, I think, at that point. So like that stuff all chips away at you, and then you get some other leads and you think, okay, this is going to pan out, and it doesn't always pan out. Like there's reasons for situations, and I guess the old cliche, everything happens for a reason. Then you get a text from Dallas, and then you get a call from Bob Murray, and then he leaves you hanging for 8 days. And then you know what?
He was too busy yelling at interns.
So and to be honest with you, like I had my when I went back to Canada, we had our furniture packed up and stored here in California. We were like, okay, where's it going next? And as it turns out, coming here to Anaheim was actually closer of a move for that moving company to put us back into an apartment here than it was when they picked it up in Playa Vista. So again, everything happens for a reason. Everything works out. And again, it's another opportunity to meet some more great people and have conversations like us guys are having right now. It's awesome.
Maybe the Kings prospects were sick of the bag skates. That's because you mentioned you like to have the guys work. Where we used to have the worst fucking bag skates. Every Monday, Tuesday, you love your conditioning skates, Stutsy.
Well, you know what? But as you know, like, it's a long grind, right? So I think that paid off for us in the fact that, you know what? We wore teams down as the game went along. I mean, third period or whatever it was, we dominated. Like that team we had, just like we had a lot of weapons, right? But more importantly, I think I won't say who the individual was on that team, but he said to me, he goes, Stutz, we go hard, right? And I go, yeah. He goes, no, we go really hard, right? And I go, yeah. And I said, that's why you guys are going to go hard on the ice. I did not give a shit what you guys did in Manchester. So long as I didn't get a phone call in the middle of the night, if you guys wanted to go out and get obliterated, I did not care. So long as the next day at 10:30 or 11 o'clock, when that puck dropped for practice, you guys were ready to give me 1 hour. And you guys never failed to deliver.
Wait, I looked like Oliver Ekman-Larsson at Canucks camp every Monday and Tuesday during my.
Yeah, he probably didn't even bag skate him until you joined the team midway through. He's like, oh fuck, now these guys are really going.
I was doing the fuck. I remember the first couple of weeks, like I wasn't used to the practice pace was one thing, but always the skates afterward, and you'd see Oni and Backy. These guys could skate for days. I would be at least a couple lengths of the ice behind these fuckers.
Hey, you weren't as slow as Mike Richards, that's for sure. Remember Richie? God bless him.
He had the weight vest on.
Oh man, yeah. So he needed the weight vest and the trash bag as well.
You know what he had weighing him down was the M&Ms, the peanut M&Ms. When he came down to Ontario, we had these like nice rain hoodies that guys would wear like before games, and he had this kangaroo pouch in front, and we had these peanut M&Ms. Murzy had them in the training room, and he would just take piles and piles, and he'd be eating these peanut M&Ms all day, every day at the rink. And yeah, that first bag skate, man, he was doing the fucking chopstick dance all the way down the ice. I think his knee bend was at about 10 to 15 degrees. One other thing I was going to ask you about Stutsy, going back to your playing days, and for those of you who don't know about Stutsy as a player, I mean, he was a guy to be reckoned with. I mean, you used to scrap a ton, and there was a famous series when you were in the American Hockey League with the Hershey Bears. And when you guys ended up going to the Calder Cup final, you fought every single game against the other team's tough guy, right?
Yeah, that was I was in Hershey, and we were playing St. Catharines, which was the Leafs farm team at the time. John Brophy was the coach for St. Catharines. So anybody familiar with the game knows all the Brophy stories.
Stutsy, we had one on this podcast where some guys
he'd be in prison now by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Man. He threw coffee at a guy's face because he kept coming in and interrupting his meeting before the period because the guy kept giving him the heads up how much time was on the clock. So I'll throw it over to you for the Brophy story.
So we've got a pretty good series going, and it ended up being 7-game series, and I don't know the exact number. But it was reported, and it might be exaggerated as the years go, but we fought like 13 times. Myself and Val James, who
twice a game
is legendary for how tough he was with, first of all, the Rochester Americans, and then into St. Catharines and Newmarket. So it was one of those ones where, Brof would, he'd send out Val, and John Paddock was our coach. And we always had a lot of meat on our team. Like, we were never short of guys to go, but they also had a pretty tough team. So it just turned out that Val and I would hook up all the time. And we had the one, I think it was started by Hexy, shocker. He slashed somebody in the crease or something, and all hell broke out in the Hershey Park Arena. And so now, like, there's scrums, there's fights going on everywhere. So myself and Val, we squared off and everything else, and we fought. And then you get kind of up against the boards and you're kind of just trying to catch your breath. So I see the referee coming over, and because the linesmen are all busy with somebody else, he's coming over, and I'm thinking, oh, thank God he's going to come over here and break this up. Well, it happened to be Paul Stewart, who was the ref at the time, who, as an American Hockey League player, fought 3 times against the Bruins. And he looks at me and Val and he goes, "Hey, you two, take it out to center and finish it." And I went, "Oh, for fuck's sakes, that's the last thing I wanted to hear." So out we go back out to center, and we had a good tilt again. And then after the game, myself and Donnie Nachbar and our wives, we went to a little local watering hole. And, like we were having some food and some beers and everything else. My head was so sore, I could hardly touch it. It was like a bag of doorknobs. And in comes through the door is Paul Stewart. And he's got 2 pitchers of beer. And he walks up to the table. He puts 1 pitcher in front of me, 1 pitcher in front of Snack. And he goes, "Stutz, that was the best thing I've seen in a long fucking time. Have a great night." And then he walked right back out, never saw Stewie again.
13 times.
Awesome.
So you got, oh my goodness, that must be a record for in one series. It has to be.
Well, and then it got even worse because, and I hate to say it because, I mean, I know the game's changed and the cultures, but I got the pregame meeting from John Paddock, and he's standing there and he's like, Stutz, they got a pretty tough team. And I go, yeah, I know. He goes, I think they think we're afraid of them. He goes, "I think you should probably, if you can, try to go Val early tonight." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, well," he goes, I think they think we're afraid of him." I go, "I am. Like, it's Val James." Like, so sure enough. So you know what that's like. It's like now that's all you can think of. Like you can't even look at the press notes because like you just want to vomit or shit yourself. Because
good thing there was no YouTube back then.
Because and sure enough, to me, it was better to just get it over with early than have it linger all night long as to when it was going to happen. But again, with Brof, if I came on the ice, Val was coming on the ice. So, but I have a lot of respect for him. And it's interesting too, because I'd see him off the ice and we would talk all the time. Like we didn't know each other well, but there was a mutual respect. He was doing his job. I was doing my job. We were both trying to win a championship and help our teams any way we could. And I got an awful lot of respect for Val James and certainly what he had to go through as a player, trying to break into the game of hockey and then become a professional player and then actually get a couple of games up in the NHL. I think that's terrific.
I mean, you got to reap what you sow, right? You talked about being a coach and making the guys be comfortable, feeling uncomfortable. And that's kind of how you had to live it as a player, especially in that fight story you just told as well.
Well, yeah. But I mean, you guys know Whit and you, Biss, like, it's really hard if you're the only so-called gunslinger on your team because, now you're expected to do it every night. Well, the good thing about Hershey is we were affiliated with the Flyers at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that mentality. So like we had more meat than we had skill. Like it was just, it was just like a butcher shop. Like we had big carcasses hanging in the locker room before and hitting it with our hands and everything else. It was like, we'd all get together and go, "Okay, I got him tonight. I got him to no, I got him tonight." And it was like, it was a whole different animal, a whole different era. And, right or wrong, that's the way the game was played back then.
Well, Stutzy, we can't thank you enough. I'm real happy that you got back into the league this year and being with Anaheim and seeing what they're doing. It's no surprise that you're there helping out. So we really appreciate you coming on. Some great stories.
Well, it's been my pleasure, guys, and I love listening to you. Keep up the good work, and I enjoy the odd Pink Whitney. That's pretty good drink.
We'll send you some out there. Just keep it away from Zegras. We saw him drinking it this summer. Jesus Christ.
Oh, no. You know what? He's not old enough, so we'll.
Okay, yeah.
And you know what? We'll have Mac Key with
dude. Come on,
ID.
dude. I got a fake ID,
hey,
dude.
Fella, come on, dude. Coach, dude.
Yeah,
Come on,
dude.
you got toe drag, dude.
Stutzy, thanks for everything, buddy. You're a legend.
My pleasure, guys.
That interview with Mike Stothers was brought to you by Roman. We've talked about Roman forever. Most guys have tried different ways to last longer and be a good lay for once in their life, but thinking about baseball doesn't always work. The folks at Roman on Online's men's health company are changing the game with the Roman swipes, the secret to longer lasting sex. The secret to not being a chump and a loser and somebody that she texts her friends about is Roman and their swipes. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance in your head or counting backwards from 10 does not make you not come. It doesn't help, but Roman swipes does. They're a clinically proven way to last longer in bed. They're effective, easy to use, and fast acting, but they don't require a prescription. And Roman can ship swipes to you in a discreet, unmarked package, and each swipes packet is small enough to hide in your wallet for whenever you need it if you're getting lucky one night. They're super easy to use. You take out the swipe, you swipe it on your horn, and then you let it dry, and you're good as RA, good to go. Go to getroman.com/chiclets, and you can get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's getroman.com/chiclets. Get on it now and be a good fuck. Biz, I want to talk to you about
my makeup on TNT.
Nope.
Oh.
I would, if I was you, I'd be so proud at the way Mike Stothers talked about you. That was such a cool thing to hear him say how much of a difference you made to that team. Because in the end, winning a Calder Cup is such an incredible accomplishment. Like, everyone's dream is to win a Stanley Cup. Well, dude, you get to the AHL, you win a Calder Cup. That's pretty fucking close, and it's pretty amazing. And you got to do it. And by the sounds of it, it's not necessarily true that team would have done it had you not been there. So you've always told me the story how Portland, you hated it and things weren't going good. And Stothers helped you out and Fuda helped you out. But then to hear the coach actually say the difference you made, and to hear Lombardi come in and say how happy he was and how lucky that he allowed them to talk them in, him into having you come, that's pretty cool to hear. So pretty proud of you, bro.
I just got the Venmo request from Stutzy. I mean, I appreciate the comments, and of course from him. I mean, it means a lot. I don't look at it like that. I look at it like the other way around, how much they did for me and how much I loved it there, and how I met friends for life. And I talk about all the time how it kind of changed everything around for me. Like, if I was in a dark place, and it just, it's life, man.
And it's actually the year that we became a little closer.
Yeah, because I was close to Boston. So yeah,
he was coming in all the time.
He was, I had him in junior as a coach, right? And it's kind of funny. We've had this topic of, the old school coaches, and Stutzy played in a very old school brand of hockey in like the Gladiator days. And he played that role. So I appreciated that from him, because he taught me accountability, and he taught me a lot of, you need to show up every day, and you got to hold yourself to a high standard, and, what's acceptable in a winning culture. And a lot of those things have kind of transpired into the off ice. So it's, I lived at home till I was 16. So he had a big imprint on not only like my youth playing junior for him for the little period, but also, during that dark period. And, I always liked his coaching methods, and it he kicks you in the ass every day, and you got to show up and work. So I'm very grateful for him and for that Ontario team. And I guess we can move along. You jammed me up with that, Whit. I thought you were going to chirp me about.
Well, I'd always heard your like version of it, and just to hear him say it, and how like Lombardi was knocked down with it, and he ended up saying how great it was. It was just a cool story. So that's the last time I'll pump your tires this episode.
I got jammed.
You looked
up.
like a fucking pumpkin on TNT.
So I get a text from Jeff. He doesn't usually text me during the shows, and he's like, "Bro, you got to fix your makeup." And so I was just sit in the chair, and the ladies are so nice, and they just put it on. I guess it was caked on, and a couple of people had sent tweets to the TNT account of like the pallbearer. Gee, you're shaking your head. Did you notice in that first segment when I said the word asshole how bad it was?
Well, yeah, and then I do the Chiclets social a lot, so I get flooded with tweets, DMs, Instagram DMs, people being like, "What the fuck is he doing?" I sit in the chair and I just leave it to them. Like, I don't know. I never used to do makeup for the Coyotes games already, so I would be oily. I have naturally very oily skin, so I think this lady got fed up of probably having to come out and dab up the oil on my face, so where she's like, "Fuck this, I'm just caking it on." I looked like a walking filter on Instagram. So all you fans that I could only imagine if Avery was watching that, what he'd be saying in his fucking living room. we should get him on and ask if he's seen that, because I'm sure that I didn't become subject to one of his Instagram stories, but I addressed the terrible makeup fast enough, and I think from now on, no makeup.
Oh my God, dude!
Oh, you saw?
No, so I have. All right, so. I have a similar story where one of my first few times on any network, I got the makeup on and I walked in, and this is 3 minutes before we're on air, and Weeksy goes, "Oh my God." Oh, he's like, dude, look at your face. I'm like, "What?" "I'm going to send you this picture right now." We can post this on Chick. We got to get Biz and I look at this picture, dude. And after the first segment, I ran in and she redid it. But wait, look at your phones. Look at your goddamn phones right now. at how I looked. And so I remember it is the biggest panic when you start getting text messages, Biz, because you must have been.
Dude, if your eyes were closed, you should be in a coffin. Like, you look like you're.
Dude, I was legit orange. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Weeksy was losing it. And I actually just texted my wife, go, do you have the pumpkin picture of me? And she goes, oh, yeah. It took her 1 second to send it.
It's her screensaver.
So we got to get that one and Biz's from this past week up there on the Chiclets account. I don't think you were that bad,
God.
dude. You were just a little pale.
I feel terrible because the ladies are so nice, but I'm going to have to tell them, hey, no more makeup. Like, this is ridiculous. People are sending Instagram shots of the pallbearer out there of me for crying out loud.
2 to 4, 7 to 9 Oprah O'Brien's after seeing this picture. Holy
that's
shit.
a scary. Yeah, you look like you're AI. You look like an AI robot.
I look like I just like. It looks like face paint almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, do you even look that much better? If everybody noticed how much fucking makeup you have on, is it even worth having?
Well, no, but I know. But on TV, when you have makeup on, when you get the makeup on before you go on TV, if you look in the mirror, you're like, wow, I have makeup on. But then on TV, it doesn't really look like that, unless you're me this time when I was fucking showing up in Talbot's
unless
Nissan
you're at
Pumpkin
the
he drove
TNT
in
studios
Wilkes-Barre.
and they're putting it on with a paintball gun.
TNT hired the only blind makeup artist.
No. We gotta. Hey, you can't be talking about our girls like that. They're awesome.
I'm just fucking around.
Come on,
they're awesome.
Whit.
Everyone has a tough day, and obviously your face ain't that easy to make look good.
That she's probably like getting this like 10 minutes before we go on and saying, "What the fuck am I gonna do with this thing?" You got scars all over the place. Oh my goodness. I got half my kit going to this guy's Toucan Sam for fuck's sakes. All right, what should we keep it positive or move to the negative side? Because I got a lot of things to bitch about, like the fucking Vancouver Canucks. What the hell's going on with those guys?
Okay, we can jump into them if you want. First off, Tucker Pullman, he got 2 games for his Dr. Hook, Tim McCracken impression on Colorado's Kiefer Sherwood. It wasn't the worst swing of a hockey stick I saw, but he still swung this hockey stick at a guy's head, so he got 2 games for it. And yeah, the Canucks, man, they won, I believe, Sunday night, and they haven't won a game since. Last Sunday night, by the way, not this last night, a week and a half ago. They've been struggling, man. Demko's been overwhelmed. I think he's been playing all right, but I just think they're just giving up too many shots. They're not getting much support. What have you seen from them?
Just, like too much run and gun. And like everybody bitched about their defensive game coming in to the season and say they're just not very good defensively. Like, it's easy to just kind of point at the guys on the back end. I just think structurally they run and gun too much for I guess the lack of offense that they're even providing now. And they got some guys that are struggling. So I said, like, their fan base is as engaging as any, because I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this team? Like, 2-goal lead in Vegas, Gonzos, they lose 7-4. You mentioned Demko's not the issue. I think just overall the team chemistry and the overall structure of the 200-foot game, it's a bit of a fucking shit show. And Pettersson's getting a lot of criticism right now. Now, it's still early, and I find that sometimes when guys hold out and they get to camp late, they always naturally have very slow starts to the year. Do you find that, Whit? Because it's like, then you got the money, the whole experience is you didn't get the training camp like the other guys did, so you're not quite in that shape that the other guys are. And then all of a sudden the contact starts, and it's like, oh fuck, it's hard to play catch up on the conditioning side of it.
Yeah, that can be true. No doubt.
And he's playing like a complete dog right now. And then another thing too is the fan base is bitching about ownership, and they said that they need a new general manager. Now, I would probably say one of the more hands-on owners in the league as far as how much control he wants around the team and like some of the moves that he's imposing on the fact of what the GM's actually doing. And I even think that it's probably a big reason by Trevor Linden, him just saying peace out. Like,
that was a bad sign.
Like, when he's saying like, I'm here to like help this thing. And then like I understand you own this thing and you're invested financially, but like, I've been around the game my whole life. And I feel like Trevor Linden he's extremely competent on and off the ice. And I would put him in the realm of one of these hockey minds of like a Sakic or an Yzerman, at least if given full control and a little bit of time. I think that he's going to make the right moves necessary, because he's also going to have the right people to vet. So I guess this is kind of a situation of like, when you kind of, when you let an owner have that much control of what's going on, these are some of the cons. And I guess that's all I got to say. And it's obviously trickling onto the ice. I'm not saying they can't turn this thing around, because you look at their top six, especially in that division, you're like, once they get cooking and they got a solid back end, and we all know that the goaltending is not the issue. Like, this should be a team who's at least competitive on the ice. And right now they look like absolute dog shit.
The problem in that statement is you're like, in this division, dude, this division's like way better than we thought.
Way better early on. Yes.
And this, it could change. Who knows what
I think anybody,
if Anaheim,
90% of people would have said that the Pacific is probably the weakest division going into the season.
Yeah. And Anaheim and LA have looked good, and Edmonton and Calgary are really good. And Vegas is battling through all these injuries, although I think Stone's back now, right? But their D are so bad in Van. They pretty much have two top four defensemen. And when your best players this lost, and Pettersson right now is lost. Like, in the Stothers interview, I bring up that Getzlaf hit. Like, I watched most of that game. I watched the second half of the game. They were not good, and he does not look good. He just looks like disengaged, and the whole team that was the end of a road trip where I think they got out. They gave up 7 twice and then gave up 5 to the Ducks. It was like 19-6 or something. They were outscored in 3 games, just shit kicking after shit kicking. So Höglander is like their best player right now. So if you're looking for positives, he looks great. But I don't know, man. It's a team that you thought would have some firepower this year, and Ekman Larson doesn't look good. He looks slow, which is kind of what we talked about. And there's only so much Quinn Hughes can do. And the fan base is pissed off. And then the biggest issue, so Jim Benning his contract's up, right? So any move that has to be done right now, like, he'd have to make. But do you trust him making it? Because he's probably not going to be back either. Like, do you get rid of him now and move on now? Or do you allow him to make moves the rest of the season? Then you're not bringing him back to begin with. So you mentioned the owner. I think, was it when COVID hit and he just decided, like, I'm not spending a lot of money anymore because we're not making any money. It really did change the whole tune of the organization. Because after they went to the bubble, remember that they got to the 3rd round in the bubble, didn't they?
Second round.
Oh yeah, okay, because they had to do the play-in, but they took. I think they took Vegas to Game 7, right, that year. So it looked like, maybe I'm wrong. I thought they had a nice run when the bubble was in Edmonton, and it was looking like
I think they got beat they beat St. Louis.
And they beat St. Louis, and then Vegas got them in 7 games, I think.
Really? Look it up. I could look it up, Grinnell.
Completely making that up.
Oh, he gave you the thumbs up,
right?
No, I was just saying I'm looking it up.
Oh, okay. So yeah, just don't say anything if I'm wrong. It's weird.
I think they rushed the rebuild too. I always go back to that JT Miller trade, and he's one of their better players. So I just felt at that time it was just like everything was happening so quick. And then you just mentioned, well, when COVID hit, they stopped. It's like you all of a sudden you throw the e-brake on everything. But yeah, it's just been a bit of a gong show, and the fan base is starting to fucking get a little bit noisy.
And put it this way, man, it's basically like year 8 of like the Canucks rebuild, right? Like
he's way past schedule.
So time for some change there, and you don't want to see people lose their job, but something's going to go down there soon enough.
All right, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like what said, if this is his lame duck year and he's not under contract, then you don't want a guy making moves just to save his job but hurt the future of the franchise. So they got to make a move, either commit to him beyond this year or maybe just cut bait and bring someone else in, because you don't want a lame duck GM. That's not a good thing to have for a team, man.
Wait, you were correct, sir.
Dude, you got a great memory with fucking
holy shit. I don't even remember that they played Vegas,
especially like the last couple playoffs, but the COVID breaks and the shortened season, it's almost like all mushed together. Plus Tampa.
Yeah, it's been a gong show of the past 2 years, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
We do got a Chiclets bump to report, Biz. Buddy Nick Dowd.
What a great guy.
3-year extension worth $3.9 million. Congrats to Dowd. I'd love to see guys get
the Ontario Reign podcast.
Yeah.
We should dedicate it to the whole Reign organization, but or excuse me, Manchester Monarchs. That's where it changed into. But well deserved, and secure in the bag, man. Good for him.
Dowd, part of a Capitals team who just put a shit kicking on the Penguins last night or Sunday night. Biz, as we were interviewing Stothers, I was looking through the roster of that Calder Cup championship team, and like Colin Miller, Dowd, the Jordan Wheel, but Brian O'Neill, how did he never make it?
He got a little.
Dude, he's been in the KHL. He's been in the KHL, lighting it up for like 7 years. Like I feel like he can skate, right?
He's with the Joe Carrot, as RA would call him. He got a little chance in New Jersey and just kind of didn't.
Yeah.
Like I'll reference it to the Garland situation. I think Garland went pointless in the first 8 games when he got called up. And finally in that 9th game, he ended up finally breaking the pointless streak. And then he got on a roll after that. I don't think Oni was ever given a long enough time where he just never got that offensive confidence, because he went over to the KHL and like he's like a superstar over in the KHL, right?
Oh, I looked at his numbers like every year, if not over a point per game, he's right there. And then that year you won the Calder Cup, like 80 points in the AHL. You've seen a lot of players light up the AHL and not be able to stick in the NHL. So it's not a definite, but just seeing his stats, it's like, fuck, man, could this guy have maybe played with another team?
I think 100% if he was given an opportunity somewhere else, he would have fit right in. Yeah. He's one of those, you know who a good comparison would be? A Nigel Dawes. Unbelievable hockey player, just never found himself in the right situation where like think about how
he made $30 million in the KHL. Who cares?
yeah, I guess a little bit different. I mean, we use Duclair as the example, at least right now, of like a guy who was bouncing around where you just don't know. Like that's the type of guy who might say, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to another team at league minimum. I'm going to make a little bit more money guaranteed over playing in Russia. And next thing you know, they're there for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a situation where he got a deal from Joe Carrot that he couldn't refuse. And it just all went so well that it's kept him over there. But yes, I think about that nonstop with Brian O'Neill. He's going to text me now that we said that. I already got a text because we teased the Stothers interview from Vincent Laverty, the captain. So one of those guys where they're like, oh, fuck, what was Stutzy saying? Because he was such a funny coach that you wanted in the locker room on a day-to-day basis. Any other hockey talk, RA? It was a little negative there with the Canucks talk.
Well, Biz, Tucker Pullman wasn't the only goonery we saw the last few days in the NHL. Your buddy Sid Crosby absolutely pigeon tosses Martin Fehérváry into the boards in this Washington game. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. A guy just pick a guy up like a wrestler and whip him in the boards. He didn't get a penalty either. He definitely should have got at least 2 there.
That's a little bit of frustration coming out from Sid. Also, I don't know, Whit, if you saw Rupper's tweet.
I did. I was going to bring that up. That was interesting.
And it's bang on. It's like the energy guys are not providing the energy for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and therefore it seems as if though he's a little bit frustrated and he's having to take matters into his own hands. They're probably going to be a heavy favorite. I think they got Buffalo next game. I think it's at home. Gee, if you could check that out. But they're going to come out with a big response. But I said it coming into the season. I didn't think this was going to be a playoff team, although they got out to that hot start without all their superstars. And then now things have drastically cooled off, and this team does not look very good with.
No, it's really hard to judge them and completely panic before him and Malkin are both in the lineup together. But yeah, it's ugly. And Rupp's tweet actually mentioned like he took it personally when he saw Sid kind of having to play that way, as almost a sense of I'm not doing my job. And that's Rupp talking in terms of like, I got to be creating energy. I got to be playing that physical style. I got to be pissing opponents off. And if he has to do it, that means I'm not doing it. And that was a noticeable thing the other night. I saw a lot of people on Twitter like so pissed off about it. Like, I don't know, like, was it that bad? I feel like the guy might have even dove a little bit.
I think the point was the fact that if Wilson did do that, though, people would have a meltdown. And
okay,
right.
Well, Crosby hasn't crushed anyone in the skull before. Actually, maybe he has. I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah,
well, Crosby's the only reason I'm in this house is because of him. So if you think I'm going to talk shit about him, you're fucking crazy. So I think that it was a little bit of a dive, and the guy should have got 2 minutes for holding Sid.
One guy who Sid did hit in the head before, back in the playoffs a while back, PK Subban. We don't know if he's had it again. He had it.
I don't think one was.
That's why
it's like every time he goes to a corner now, we're getting sent a video. Right. But hey, people have been right. We've seen 2 of the Subban so far this year. So going back to the Reeves one, that's a no. The next 2 were yeses. This one was nowhere near it. Now, was it who sent the original video out asking if it was, or were people stating the fact that it was in fact a slew?
This one, I can't even tell what happened to Blay.
Because I think Blay ended up getting injured on the play. Is that correct? And then
bad. He couldn't put any weight on his leg, but I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see the injury on like watching the replay over.
Me neither. This was like an absolute nothing burger, even worse than the Reeves one. So we're 2 for 2 on the slew bands. So false alarm, folks. Don't go to Twitter and start sending out some crazy shit. We got
the three he's gotten is he got Trent Frederick in Boston last year. He got Zegras this year in exhibition. And then what was his bad one this year?
Lucic.
And Luch. So he's had questionable, but 3 legit ones. So either way, when he's in the corner now and a guy goes down injured, we're getting videos sent.
I'm going to start tuning into New Jersey Devils games just to see every time he enters the corner, just to keep an eye on what's going on.
Another COVID story. Unfortunately, we were hoping to not have to deal with this to this extent this year, but the Ottawa Senators, they got overrun with players placed in COVID protocol. A lot of these guys only had minor symptoms, but either way, they tested positive or were close to guys who did. They were missing Zaitsev, Murray, Formanton, who else? The 4 their D, Holden, Brown, Mite, all these guys were all out. They had to play Thursday. They were way on demand. They lost to the Kings. Then they made them play again Sunday night versus Calgary. They were missing like 10 guys. One of their coaches.
That was a 10K bet. That was a 10K lock, 4-0 win. I should have had $5 million on it.
Yeah. I'm sick. I didn't have nothing.
I texted the group chat.
I know. Biz is the one who said it. And then I go, holy shit, they got all those COVID injuries. I think they had used every defenseman in the system.
Yeah.
I think they had no other defensemen signed to contracts that they could have called up. So the league making them play that game was tough.
Yeah, it is tough. But either way, they're going to have their next 3 games postponed versus the Devils, Predators, and Rangers this week. I'll let you know when those games are going to be made up. But this just sucks because it fucks up everybody's schedule. Gee, what do you got?
I don't know if you guys saw Pierre LeBrun's tweet. He had a tweet. It said, also a reminder that the NHL and NHLPA have until January 10th to opt out of the Olympic participation. If the number of postponed NHL games escalates over the next 2 months, that's an obvious possibility. Do you guys think there's any way that happens?
Yeah. I mean, if enough games get canceled, what are you going to do? And I think that
So explain to me though, the whole team's vaccinated. How often are they testing these guys?
I think it's every day they have to.
What the fuck, dude?
Maybe not anymore, and don't quote me on it. But I think that the reestablishing an 82 game season should be the main focus of the NHL right now. I want to see these guys in the Olympics more than anyone. But having a full 82 game season and not going through this clusterfuck again, to me, is my full opinion. All right, do you agree that they should put the Olympics on hold if it gets a little bit ridiculous?
I mean, not at this level. I mean, I guess if 6 or 7 teams are affected with 6-8 guys each, maybe, but I don't know. I don't think this is enough because, again, you talk about money and ratings and all that aspect. I don't think this is enough to put the Olympics off. If it happens more,
well, no, not this, but they said if enough of it happens.
Yeah. Well,
this is a pretty hard spread, right? So they probably should have already canceled 1 game. They're going to mix the next 2. You said
they postponed the next 3 games.
Yeah, I guess if it happens to enough teams.
Yeah, because then they're gonna have to make up all those games.
I think maybe I'm wrong. I would guess 9 out of 10 NHL fans hockey fans want the Olympics with NHL players. So I understand that you got to make sure everyone's safe and healthy, but I will be so disappointed if fucking COVID ends up causing the league to have to delay enough games where they can't go to the Olympics and we can't watch best on best in China. I'm fired up for that, man. I think it'll be kind of cool to almost get games at crazy times because it's over in China. So who knows? It might be the morning, might be really late at night, but no matter what, it's the best versus the best. That's what everyone wants to see. And I know that's what the players want the most too. So let's hope that by canceling these 3, it's able to stop everything in its tracks and really continue the progress that the league has made, battling through this COVID bullshit and playing games on time and in good health. So it does suck to see that. I just wish I'd bet him against them in LA too. Would have been another free win. What?
No, you're right.
Funny. I think that the star players want to play at the Olympics, but I think for the regular guys to have to get jammed up in schedule on the back end and be playing every other night.
No, I disagree. I think they might want it more, dude. They get the 2-week vacation.
Oh yeah. That's true.
The NHL Olympic break is the greatest thing that's ever happened to NHL players. You're either in the Olympics playing for your country, or you have 15 days with nothing but sunshine and pina coladas and golf.
Yeah, not me. I went to Cabo for like 4 or 5 days. I was on the IR after that for about 3 coming back. So I'd be like, no Olympics, no, for the love of God. All right, we can move on.
All right, boys. Moving right along. Oh, yeah, we want to send congrats to Detroit Red Wings Sam Gagner. He played in his 900th NHL game. He became part of the 6th father-son combination to do it in NHL history. Whit, your buddy of yours, right?
I love Gags. This guy, great storyteller, very funny. He's going to come on the show whenever he does retire, which hopefully isn't for a while. And we're not super close, but I could say I'm very proud of this guy, man, because he was drafted a very high pick. And I think even he would say, right, he hasn't turned into a point per game guy. He was a 6th overall pick, but he's played 900 games. And the way he's done it is really changing his game a little bit. And he came into Edmonton as like a future number 1 line guy and had some really good seasons, but in the end was never like a point per game guy, and figured out a way to stay in the NHL through a little ups and downs, right? He ended up getting sent to the minors when he got to Philly, and he played for Lehigh for a little bit in the AHL. Then he signed with Columbus and had one of his best years that he's ever had in his career. Then he goes back to Edmonton. He's in the minors a couple games that next season. I don't know if it was injury or whatever the reason may be, but then back with Edmonton, and then he's with Detroit. And you see how much he means to Detroit with the season they're having, and also him getting re-signed this summer. So he's just such a good person. He works his bag off. He's got a crazy, crazy high work ethic. He loves the game. He's somebody that's always loved the game. He would be on the ice all day long if he was able to. And I loved playing with him. I'm really happy for him. And to see, if your dad plays that long in the show and then you're able to match him, that's like the odds of that are just so astronomically high that it's pretty cool to see that he's one of 6 father-son combos to play that many games each. Happy for him.
I got a text from them the other day. They're coming to Scottsdale and they got their rookie party.
Biz still sets up rookie parties. How ridiculous is that?
No,
definitely getting a commission on it.
No, I delegate to my buddy now because I don't know what the cool things are. But it's awesome to hear that you said that he's a great storyteller. I'm curious to know if he's going to eventually come on.
He is. He will.
He did say, though, when I talked to him, he said he could talk about Liquid Dueno and tell those stories for probably.
Oh, him and Cogliano. I almost want to get him and Cogliano together because they came into Edmonton the exact same time. But I think there's a classic story. I'm going to butcher it. It was like Pat Quinn in the newspaper. It was like, we got 2 fucking guys that shouldn't even be in the fucking league. I'm supposed to be taking care of them. It was like, pretty sure it's Gags and Cogs. Like, I didn't do that justice. He'll be able to tell it, but they have some classic stories because Cogliano and Gagner came into Edmonton and was that team bad for like 5 years. Like the whole time they were there, it was just struggle bus.
He said, he said that Liquid Dueno could put on a show. That's for sure. So he said we should get him and Cogs on together to talk about Liquid Dueno. Is Cogs a good storyteller with the Dueno stuff?
Andrew Cogliano's best storyteller I've ever heard, bar none.
All right, line him up.
I don't know if he'll ever come on the show. Like Cogs is like a private kind of quiet guy until you get to know him. Dude, this guy does imitations of people that will have me crying laughing the next time I see him.
Kind of like in this one when everybody, I got a couple texts. Luch texts me, he goes, "How is Thordy?" I said, Thordy's very reserved compared to what he is. So guys are always interested what guys are coming on and how much they're going to let it fly.
We got Thordy come up in a few more minutes. Do got a few more NHL notes to get to first. Washington goalie Zach Fucale got a shutout in his first career start. This kid was taken in the 2nd round of the 13 draft by Montreal. He bounced between the A and the coast, bunch of different teams the last few years. So just a great story, man. First start, gets the shutout. Last time that happened was Garrett Sparks back in 2015 for Toronto. And also Ovi. He passed Brett Hull with the 742nd goal. He's now number 4 on the all-time goal list. Next up, Jaromir Jagr's 766. It's going to take a little while, so we'll take a breather on Ovi. Let's see. Our buddy Hazy returned to the Flyers lineup Saturday night. I know you want to chime in here. You helped him announce the 11 Fund, which is going to go toward tuition for underprivileged kids who attended their old school in Dorchester, St. John Paul II. Great job on that blog last week, G, and getting the merch out there. Yeah, man. I had nothing to do with that. That was all Kevin and Jimmy's wife, Kristen. But we have sweatshirts on sale now. 100% net proceeds go to the 11 Fund. I tweeted out, there's no reason that this T-shirt and this sweatshirt shouldn't be our highest selling sweatshirt and T-shirt of all time.
And you can find that at store.barstoolsports.com.
And make sure that's where you're buying it, because we've seen some scumbags pop up online with these fake charities.
Crazy.
Like, they're just, I mean, I'm not surprised because it's the fucking internet, but if you're buying it elsewhere, then you're not helping the cause, which is the whole reason for this thing. So make sure you're buying it from Barstool so the money goes to the right place and not some dirtbag exploiting the fucking charity.
And if you and the Flyers, they also the Flyers also put a little money on the board for the 11th on there. 93
grand was it? And the Ducks too. Ducks had a bundle on there too. So that was great. All those guys to donate all that money to get the fund kicked off. Good stuff. Montreal goalie Carey Price, he released a statement on Instagram stating that he had entered a residential treatment facility for substance use because he needed to prioritize his health for himself and his family. And he said, with that comes some uncertainty when I'll return to play. Obviously, wish him the best, wish him his privacy. It's just, an update. He's a huge player in this league, and we want to see him get back, but we want to see him get healthy first. And unfortunately, the Habs also lost Jake Allen after Dylan Larkin looked like he was pushed into him by defenseman Jeff Petrie, just bundled Jake Allen. So the last thing the Canadians needed to lose was another goaltender. But either way, hopefully we'll get Pricey back out there, one of the great guys in the league. Let's see. Oh, Rick Nash is going to be the first Blue Jacket to have his number retired, number 61, of course. We want to send congrats out to Braden Coburn, Atlanta's 8th overall pick in 2003. He officially retired after 983
What a guy.
with Atlanta, Philly, Tampa, Ottawa, and the Islanders. And, of course, he won a cup with Tampa in 20. I'm sorry, Whit.
No, I was going to go two things about what you just said. Rick Nash, that guy's the balls. What a fucking career. Over 400 goals, first overall pick. That was the draft I was drafted in. Such a nice person. I've just met him a few times, but guys absolutely love playing with him. And there's a really cool video Columbus made in terms of how they told him he's getting his number retired. It was a big team meeting in the locker room, and all of a sudden there's a video. I think it was the owner on there mentioning Rick Nash was the best Blue Jacket they've ever had, and that his number would be retired in March in a game against the Bruins. And you could tell it meant a lot. All of a sudden, his kids and his wife were right behind him standing there. And he did an interview today on NHL Network with EJ Raddick, and he talked like, he mentioned, I'm just not comfortable being the center of attention.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I finally thought it was over, and I said my thanks. And as I'm leaving the room, it was every worker from the Columbus organization was lining the hallways like, I started sweating again. But Rick Nash, amazing player. I'd love to get him on here sometime. I know he said he doesn't really love doing stuff like this, so we'll see if that goes down. But congrats to him. That's such an honor getting your number retired. And Coburn, great player. One of the worst trades of all time, up there with Kunitz Whitney, was Alexei Zhitnik for Braden Coburn. The Philadelphia Flyers acquired Braden Coburn when the Atlanta Thrashers wanted to try to make the playoffs. They dealt Coburn and they got Zhitnik in, who played, I don't know, a year or two. And then Coburn went on to have a fantastic long career, a lot of that time with Philly. And he went to the Cup Finals with them actually in 2010, I think, when Chicago beat them. But if you guys could get this one, I'd be impressed. There's 4 players left in the NHL who played for the Atlanta Thrashers. Can you name them?
Oh, that's such a good trivia question.
Evander Kane.
Yup.
Even though he's not currently playing. Who was one of our guests? Was it Bortuzzo? Was it Bobby Bortuzzo? I want to.
Oh my goodness, this is such a good trivia question.
Edmondson? No. This is a great question too. Kane.
I heard this on the radio this morning.
I think I have to give up.
So I got 3. I couldn't get the 4th. It's Kane. I got Andrew Ladd. I got who was the other guy I got? Wheeler. Blake Wheeler.
Oh, that was an easy one.
And the 4th one, I can't even fucking remember right now.
Wait yourself.
Oh my God.
All right. You can mull it over and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, or we can move on. We can come back to it.
Well, we got some big news. The Chiclets Cup, Mikey Grinnell. What is going on here? The Chiclets Cup.
We had a major rebrand. So first off, we have 2 big things. We have a major rebrand. The Barstool Hockey Fest will now be called the Chiclets Cup. Elite name. And number 2, February 3rd and 4th, we will be in Las Vegas for the first Chiclets Cup in our second hockey tournament, the NHL All-Star Game. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. We can't disclose the location yet, but we can tell you we're breaking out all the stops. We got special guests. It's going to be Vegas themed. It's going to be incredible. I'll let Biz talk about it for a sec, but we're breaking out all the stops for this one.
Well, I'm playing in it. And then we can't mention the special guest, and we can't mention the location. So other than the fact that it's going to be great and competitive like the last one, and the whole crew is going to show up, the Barstool team, I'm sure, is going to put a team in. I would like to maybe have a separate team. Not saying that I don't want the bar. I just want a little bit control as maybe like a GM/coach. Maybe even have Whit as one of the brass with me. And then we'll get Bob Murray as well. We'll see what Bob Murray's up to, and we'll hire him.
Zach Bogosian.
It will be the same setup as last time, though. Roller and ball hockey. So start getting your teams together. Start sending us videos. We'll reserve a spot for you if you send us a good video. I'll tell you that right now.
All right. Will you play net one more time in that one? Or are you done? Are you
in Vegas, dude? Are you kidding me? He might not even show up to the tournament.
I was gonna say, can you play on no sleep out there? Maybe. I don't know. I'm done. I'm done after Detroit. I had my fun. I paid for it for about 2 weeks after that. I'm officially retired. Yeah, Vegas. Probably the worst city to get me in equipment, especially All-Star weekend. I'll be having my fun elsewhere, but I'll be there for the festivities. I assure you that, Paul.
Anything else for you?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, so we'll have more info in the coming weeks where you can sign up, how you can sign up. But like I said, start getting your teams together, start planning this because it's going to come up fast.
What about the content side of it? They don't have to submit videos this time, or is that still happening?
He just said send us a video.
No, you don't. It's not mandatory. You don't have to send us a video. Sorry. But if you do send a video, you send us a sick video that you go above and beyond.
A spot.
Yeah, we'll reserve a spot for you. We got no problem doing that.
Good. All right, good to know. Whit Bogosian was the last guy.
Yeah, Bogosian. He was third overall pick there in 2008 and played 3 seasons, I think. So that's the 4.
He said he wanted to come on. We got to get him on.
Yeah. Bogo said he'll come on at some point. We got to grab that guy. He's a funny bastard. Hell of a career.
All right, boys, about time to send it over to Shawn Thornton, but we want to let you know that this interview is brought to you by Sezzle. Sezzle is a buy now, pay later solution that allows you to get what you want today while paying for it over time in 4 interest-free payments over 6 weeks. Sezzle is now available at the Barstool Sports Store in more than 34,000 exciting stores in the USA and Canada. There are no hidden fees and no credit check if you pay on time with zero impact to your credit score. This stuff's great, man, especially if you're like a broke college student or on a budget. You got to get that new chiclet swag or whatever else. Boom, Sezzle. It's easy. There's no better time to sign up for Sezzle than right now before our Black Friday sale when we got all kinds of new merch dropping, like this new lid right here. Gee, what style hat is this I'm wearing?
I like to call it a Chiclets Retro. We got Chiclets Retro and Pink Whitney Retros.
Looks like an old softball team or something. Either way, it's a good bucket, and you can get it soon. Make sure to sign up for Sezzle. Once again, go to the Barstool Sports Store, shop now, and pay later with Sezzle. And now our pal, Shawn Thornton. Well, it's been way too long since we've had our next guest on. He's the only player in the expansion era to play over 700 NHL games and over 600 AHL games. He's the only player this century to record 10 fights, score 10 goals, and win the Stanley Cup in the same season. That came, of course, with the 2011 Bruins, and he also won a Stanley Cup with the 2007 Ducks. Today, he's Chief Commercial Officer for the Florida Panthers, and now he can add author to his resume as well. It's a great pleasure to welcome back to the Spittin Chiclets podcast, Shawn Thornton. What's up, Shakespeare? How you doing?
I got to add it to the LinkedIn, huh?
The only guy who's written a book but couldn't read it. Just kidding. You're a smart guy. How you doing, Thordy?
Good, boys. Good to see you again.
Nice. So for people listening in the car, he's got this beautiful corner office, big Panthers game tonight, overlooking Florida. Looks great, but you're enjoying the new role there? Or I guess it's not so new anymore.
Yeah, it's been 4 years and a bit now.
It's crazy.
I retired, I don't know, April 10th or whatever it was, and the team was on its way to Washington. I said, have fun, boys. I'm going to stay back and get a little tipsy in Lexus Lounge that it was at that time. And 2 weeks later, I think I was in the office. So not much of a downtime for the retired fella here.
You've switched positions a couple times already, haven't you, though? I mean, you broke in kind of learning the ropes, and now you're kind of more to it with like the arena operations aspect?
So I broke in a little bit in partnerships, a little bit in marketing. Now I kind of oversee most of business ops, actually, game pres, marketing, corporate comms, sales, corporate sales, brand, content, all that stuff reports into me now. I know I'm as shocked as business face is right now. I'm kind of shocked that I climbed my way up as well.
No, I did a little research. You got an incredible work ethic, and all the way back to even before you started playing hockey. But I wanted to ask RA to retell the story you told before you jumped on about how you guys originally first met.
Yeah, almost 14 years ago, Shawn. You're the guest. You could tell it.
Oh, you go ahead. You're better at telling stories. You're the protector of the cup, the Holy Grail for an evening in a shady bar in Charlestown. Yeah.
It was January of 08, I believe, and nobody. It was a Sunday. It was, I think, the NFL championships were that day. It was some playoff games that day, and in walks Thorty holding the cup on his shoulder like he's like at a union job or something. And there's probably 15 people in the bar. Again, it's a Sunday night. It's January. The Bruins haven't won the cup in 36 years. But he, of course, had rights prima nocte because he had won it before. He basically commandeered the cup from the Wives Carnival and just started popping in every bar in Boston. And he popped in the Spud, the Ironside Grill, and we hadn't met before. Of course, I was straight out of Central Cast. I had the scally cap on, Bruin shirt, so I couldn't even have faked it. He puts the cup on the table and he with 2-finger point hard in my chest. He's like, make sure no one picks it up. And he walks over to get a bar. I call my father. I was like, Dad, guess what? I'm babysitting the Stanley Cup. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm down the Spud. So, and then he took it to Sully's. He took it all over town. I think half the time got their picture with it.
How did you have it middle of the season though?
So it was the Bruins Wives Carnival, and they had it. And Mike Bolt was the keeper of the cup, and I know Mike from Toronto. He was my guy with all my days with the cup, and then obviously the parties after the season and all that stuff. So he's like, Thorty, I want to grab a beer. I was like, all right, let's go. I know somewhere we can hide. And he's like, but I got to bring the trophy. I can't just leave the Stanley Cup in like a hotel room. I was like, bring it. So Perfect. That's kind of how. Yeah. I felt awkward. I mean, like you said, Boston hadn't won it in 36 years, and here I am parading around Charlestown with it over my shoulder. It wasn't like it was the most humble thing to do, but he wanted to grab a beer. Is the only way we could make it happen.
No shocker, considering half of your stories result in the cup being involved in some way or another.
Yeah,
or a bar.
But that's how it is. Like that guy, the keeper of the cup, he couldn't have just gone out with a beer for you and left the cup in the hotel room. Like he has to be by this thing's side, like it's the fucking president of the United States of America or something.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, maybe he doesn't trust himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Missing once.
But you did say you were going to bring it back, and 3 years later you won, and you brought the cup back to the Spud. Many a word.
All me, obviously. The only reason we won the cup, all me.
Big time.
So the book, Fight My Way to the Top, with Dale Arnold, the foreword by Tuukka Rask. How'd that process go? When did you first come up with the idea for a book?
Pre-pandemic. It wasn't my idea. I was approached on it. I was like, I don't want to write a book. I mean, that sounds miserable. But they said, you have a unique story. I mean, how many guys this day and age played 600 games in the minors, then 700 in the NHL, won a couple cups, worked in a steel factory, got punched in the face for a living, didn't make the NHL till you're 30 and played till you're 40. Like you got an interesting story. We'd like for you to tell it, and we'll help you write it. It was a little tricky because I planned on coming back up to Boston and doing a bunch of hot stoves with Dale around and like letting him just hear the boys tell stories. But then the world shut down, so a lot of it was like phone interviews and trying to fit it in between the family and the job and carving out an hour or two here and trying to remember stories and making sure I had the timeline right. Like, was I in Grand Falls, Newfoundland in 2001 or was it 99? I can't remember.
I'm sure a lot of that's a blur anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You've been to Newfoundland, you've seen it. It's another world. But so yeah, they approached me, and it was about 2 years in the making, I guess. So hey, hopefully somebody gets something out of it.
I've actually asked a few people because I've said before, like, oh my God, book, I don't remember my stories. And for guys who don't, did Dale do a good job in almost kind of getting you to remember things? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they can do that where it's like all of a sudden you get some reminders and things come back to you.
Yeah, a little bit, especially with the Boston stuff. But then I would call some of my ex-teammates and some of my buddies from back home and be like, hey, man, remember what happened when we had this there? And he's like, oh, yeah, I can remember. And they would start kicking me stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then a bunch of my buddies were interviewed in the book, too. So I hate talking about myself. So it's really awkward and weird to write a book about yourself and not talk about yourself. So I try to get other voices in there to tell stories, so it wasn't me.
How much in depth did you go into the fact that you were working midnights at a steel factory before you even went to play for the Peterborough Pizza?
What age is this at?
I think like 13, 19, child labor.
Yeah. In my hometown, you probably could. I was 19. I got drafted in the steel factory. I signed my first contract literally in the steel factory. So I remember Bill Waters called and he's like, hey, remember back then, development camp was like 6 weeks long in the summer, right? Like all the rookies had to go live in the hotel in Toronto. I was like, hey man, I'm making like $20 an hour in the steel factory and my signing bonus isn't that big at all. Do you mind if I just stay here? I'll show up in shape. He's like, yeah, you're fine. So I got out of dev camp to flip bars in the steel factory.
That's incredible.
Now, Thor, obviously, like you said, you played a bunch of AHL games before you got to the NHL. Did you ever think of like throwing the towel at any point? Was the NHL always the goal? Like, were you just happy to be getting paid playing hockey? What was the mindset during those maybe third and fourth years in the AHL?
Well, it was the ninth year in the AHL. When I left my last year in Norfolk, I said, I'm going to try one more organization, because I'd only been in Toronto and Chicago, and I had a couple cups of coffee with Chicago, but it didn't seem like it was going to work out there. So I'm going to try one more organization, and if not, I'm going to go back and be a cop in Toronto. I was skating with a bunch of buddies that were cops in my hometown and in Toronto. I was working my way on going that. My wife, at the time, she wasn't my wife yet. She had already gone through her police testing. We're like, we'll just do the typical things that everyone in our town does. Go back home, get the small house, be a cop, try not to shoot people. And then I signed with Anaheim, and poor Fridge broke his face, and I got called up and never went back down. I won a cup that year, just going along for the ride with, the Niedermeyers and Prongs and those guys. But I was on it, and then Boston was the next year. So yeah, I was really ready to hang him up. If I spent the whole year in Portland, I probably would have gassed it.
No shit, huh?
That's fucking crazy.
And that was the fight when rest in peace, Derek Bugard hit Fridge, right?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
So that year in camp, did you even get a chance at some exhibition games, or was it kind of an early send to Portland?
No, I played a bunch, and my exit interview going down, Berkey's like, listen, we thought you had an unbelievable camp. Like, we don't have room for you right now with some of the moves we made. They signed Greener and our buddy Ian Moran. They're going to be like the extra forward and extra Ds. Like, if I can make some moves, I like a tough team. There's nobody other than myself that, I'll have as many tough guys as possible as long as they can play, Berkey. So I went down, and then that happened with Fridge. They called me back up, and Berkey was like, listen, you're tough, but you're not heavyweight tough. I was like, oh, ouch, but okay.
Oh, yeah? You fight him, asshole.
Yeah, so they brought in George Peros, so I went back down, and then they moved a couple guys and then brought me back up. So then, I played, I think, 56 games that year, 15 or so in the playoffs, and, the rest was history, I guess.
Yeah, that 07 Cup winner, I mean, there was a ton of veterans on that squad, but you also had two young guys pacing everything, Getzlaff and Perry. What was the dynamic like? I mean, those guys are doing most of the points, but you got a Pronga like in the room, Niedermeyer, all these kind of contrasting styles. How does the leadership take place there?
The leadership there, Prongs, the Niedermeyers, Tamu, like they kind of ran the room. Norm Niedermeyer is very quiet, but just when he speaks, the whole world just shuts down and listens to him. He doesn't speak all that often, but when he does, he's kind of like Berge a little bit. Like when he's talking, you better be listening. Prongs, if anyone knows him, he can talk.
He's never not talking.
Yeah, he was more the vocal leader. But then Getzy and Pears, when I got called up, actually, I played on their line the first time, and I think I had I don't know, like 4 or 5 points in 6 games and 2 fights, and then I got called back up. I wasn't playing with them anymore, and I think I had 7 points the whole season. Yeah. So those kids were unbelievable at that age. They're superstars, and they're only in their second full year, I think.
You're like, if I keep playing with Corey Perry, I'm going to have 900 fights this season. Just getting the worm out of all the trouble.
300 points, too. I would have taken it all year long.
Yeah, I
got more than league minimum from the Bruins the next season.
Yeah, that was a big 03 draft for them. I think they got them both in the first round, and they were just like quick developing right up to the show and making an impact. What did you make of your time in Peterborough? You were there for a couple of years, and obviously in that last year you gained a lot of confidence. You finally ended up getting drafted because you were passed over the first time.
First 2 times, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I was drafted as almost a 20-year-old that year. I loved Peterborough. It was great. What a great organization. My first year was typical kind of our role biz, like fourth line, run around, get punched in the face, make sure nobody else gets punched in the face. The second year I played on the second line, played with a good friend, Dave Durden, who was I think he was our top scorer that year. And I played D for about 20, 25 games that year too. So, yeah, and the draft, I had no idea, man. I met with one scout. He worked for the Leafs. I had lunch with him on the way he was on his way to the Mem Cup. He's like, you seem like a decent guy. I might be able to do something. And honestly, they called draft day. I was golfing with my buddies. I only went back to my parents' place to grab a case of beer. I was the only one that had a case of beer in the basement, and the phone rang. And I think I told Bill Waters to fuck off. Like, and my agent called back. He's like, no, that was really Bill Waters. You got drafted. I was like, oh, thanks.
That's how many.
I love the time there.
That's how many pranks were going on back then, because we have a lot of guys on who were getting
hanging up on people,
just like telling GMs to fuck off because they think their buddies were pranking them. But going back to, like, you know, how you had to play that fourth line role in Peterborough, you end up going up to the American Hockey League, and that was like it was different back then. Like every team had like 3 or 4 heavies. How was that adjustment for you? Were you a little bit like scared going into that AHL pro seasons, like following the next 4 years, where you had 350 penalty minutes, 316 penalty minutes, 320 penalty minutes? Like, it's fucking crazy.
My first year, yeah, a little bit going in, I was nervous, but I wasn't we had some guys, Clayton Norris, Greg Bird Dog Smith, God rest his soul. He was a legend. I had those guys that were taking on all the big boys my first year. And then the second year, I was kind of like, listen, if I'm going to make it, I got to be the guy. And that's when I ended up with like 360 minutes or something. But it took a year for me really to get my feet underneath me. And then I think I fought this guy, Moose Morissette, and some of the Sylvain Blouin. There were some like super heavies that were down there, and I fought him. I did okay. I was like, all right, I can do this. And then just carried on from there. I mean, that jungle is, I mean, that Maritime division back then, it was like 5, 6 guys on every single team. Every night you're getting in 1 or 2, or the threat of it at least. But we had 5 or 6 guys as well. There's a lot of Donnie Brooks. I wasn't the only one doing it. I think we had, 6 guys with 200 minutes or some shit like that. It was crazy back then. But made it a lot easier when I got to the show and there was only 1 or 2 guys on every team. They're like, are you nervous? I'm like, oh, God, no.
This
is
is nothing.
on a private jet instead of taking the iron lung, and I got 2 guys on the other side. I'm good. Thanks.
Unreal. Terry Ryan actually reached out and he said to ask about Bird Dog and maybe get into him a little bit. I know you mentioned him, and you mentioned he passed away as well.
Yeah, absolute legend. The scariest human being I've ever met in my whole life, like the legit craziest. But also, if I was ever in any trouble, he'd be the first guy I called, because he'd give you the shirt off his back. He'd literally break the wall of the jail down to get you out if you had to. Yeah, there's a whole chapter about Bird Dog in the book that, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did some things that he's legendary in the minors, just legendary.
I love that.
What would you say your winning percentage was during the AHL fight, Shawn, if you had to round it off?
0. I just tried to tie every fight. I just try not to get beat up. Just survive. Just survive.
You were tactical. Like when we became buddies, I started, I met you in the off season in Boston. You were you did boxing and all that stuff, but you were just smart. You knew exactly how to tie guys up. Like, it was basically that way from the time you turned pro.
Yeah. My younger days, I was probably a little bit foolish and thought I could just go, punch to the face competition. As I got older, I decided my hands started to hurt, my face started to hurt, and it wasn't really as worth it. And I boxed since I was a kid. I've done jiu-jitsu for 10 years. Hockey fighting, and back in the young days in the minors, we had 5 or 6 guys. We'd literally practice stuff after practice, where to grab, how to grab, different little tricks that might get your arm free or choke a guy out while you're wrestling with him. DJ Smith, the coach of the 67 or the Senators, he was on my team. We came up at the same time. He was a tough guy in the OHL at the same time. Like, after every practice, we were wrestling each other for 20, 30 minutes to work on things.
Shawn, after the 07 season, did Anaheim offer you a deal, or was Boston the only offer? They give you more money? What was the story there?
Anaheim offered me 1 year. My agent said, I think something else is going to be out there for you. He not to get anybody in trouble on tampering, but he was pretty sure I had a 2 or 3 year deal coming from a couple different places. Chicago actually offered me as well coming out of there. They offered me a 2-year deal for more money, but the Bruins did 3 years. And these guys can tell you, when you move around that much, especially in the minors, I didn't even care. I was a 1-way deal, and I was in Boston. Cam Neely called me. He's like, you don't understand how this town will appreciate a player like you.
Oh, my God.
It's probably the understatement of my career. Just embraced, luckily. So made the right choice for sure.
So sorry, Biz, 1 sec. So it was actually, I kind of thought you almost knew that in a sense, I want to get to Boston. That's the perfect place for me to be. But if, say, Chicago had given you the 3 years, it would have been them, huh? It was more just then about getting the years.
Yeah, more about getting the years and as much money as possible. And I was in Chicago already, right? So Dale's the one that got rid of me, and then he wanted to bring me back. I
don't trust you, Dale.
Yeah, a little bit. And
then he got me back to Florida too. I followed Dale everywhere. So yeah, I'd never been to. I think I've been to Boston like one time. We were playing Lowell. I took a train in. I knew nothing about the city. I didn't know one guy on the team, but took a flyer on it, and thank God I did.
Yeah, you go from signing there to starring in Mike Wahlberg movies, or Mark Wahlberg. I call him Mike.
Still getting residuals for that thing. It's amazing. The check will show up for like $9.72.
I don't know, for those of you who haven't seen it, would you rush the stage and go and punch somebody out?
I try to, but it's Wahlberg. He's obviously got to be the toughest guy.
He's got to be the hero in his movie.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to save everyone.
I yell, "You're an asshole," and then rush the stage, and he gets me with the microphone stand.
Have you done any other acting since at all, Shawn?
No. I do not like being in front of the camera. I actually hate that you guys are on Zoom right now. I miss the old days when I could just call in.
I know, believe me, my face gets plastered every now. I want to puke. It used to just be right over the phone, no video, audio. I'm in a face for audio guy.
Doty, I mentioned the Stanley Cup with the Bruins, 10th anniversary this year. Obviously, COVID's been wreaking havoc. Were you able to have any sort of reunion, or the guys able to get together, or even online or anything?
We did a Zoom one for the Bruins.
That was great.
Yeah, at the end of last year, everyone just started getting a little bit too many in them and started chirping each other. It was quite interesting, especially when, I think all the wives were probably watching it too. My wife's like, "So what happened in Belfast?" I was like, I was with my family there. My mom was with me. I don't know what those guys were up to. So we talked about Shane Knight. He was going to try and set something up in Vegas for us, maybe in this off season coming up for us all to get back together. But we didn't really get anything done over the off season.
I want to ask, during that final, did the Bruins sense that maybe the hockey world was starting to pull for them after Vancouver started pulling all that hen house shit that was sort of embarrassing to the game? Did you sense basically everybody was rooting for the Bruins after all that shit?
Well, I mean, everybody in Boston's always rooting for a Boston team. Outside of it, I don't know. I was up in the stands for the first two games. It was driving me nuts, some of the stuff that was happening. Me and Shane Knighty. I mean, it's business the same way. It's in your DNA. You see people trying to take advantage of your teammates. You want to go down there and rip their heads off in the locker room if you have to. So I was definitely excited when Claude told me that I was going back in for Game 3 and try and posture a little bit.
Was there any, I guess you were up in the stands, but, was there any big speech or moment from Recchi or Chara, after being down 0-2 before Game 3, or was it kind of let's just go home, business as usual?
I don't remember a big speech, but I'm terrible for remembering that stuff. And before a game, I was kind of on my own little world, getting ready in case I had to get punched in the face. But that team had been through so much and been through so much adversity in the years past, being up 3-0 to Philly the year before, and then absolutely choking and losing that. So there wasn't a lot of panic in us. We knew we were a good team. So it was more like, all right, let's go home. Let's send a message when we get home, let them know, and then you're back 2-1 and it's a series, and just keep cranking. But there was no sense of panic. I know that. We were a confident bunch that have been through a ton of things, so we weren't panicked.
Doty, Claude was your only coach the whole time you were in Boston. What did you like about playing for him?
His structure. I mean, he was disciplined. We played a system. We were bought into a system. But I got to say, it was more the guys in that room, like Bergie, Z, Axley when I got there. Those guys really just took control of anything we needed to do. Mark Recchi, Rex is one of the best leaders I've ever seen my whole life in any walk of life. He's just amazing. And he really, taught the group what it took to win. And it was more the guys in that room that took ownership of the room and really made that championship team, in my opinion.
Yeah. Is it hard to revisit when you ended up getting that 15-game suspension, when you ended up punching Brooks Orpik? Because I know you guys are buddies off the ice too, and that was probably the one thing in your career where you were always known as an honest guy and always would go up and ask the guy if he wanted to fight. You wouldn't jump guys, and that was maybe the one stain. Yeah,
huge stain too. Does it hurt me to go back? Yeah, it sucks, but I wrote about it in the book too. I actually got Brooksy on the phone with Dale Arnold to tell his side of the story. I didn't want it to be how I saw it and my biased view of it. In my head, I was lightly tossing him on the ground, his head didn't hit the ground, and I was going to rough him up for a couple seconds. And like you said, we're friends off the ice. We trained together in the off season. We used to ride down to New York together for the lockout meetings. And so my idea was going to throw a couple punches. He was going to be fine. I'd get 4 minutes. We'd kill the penalty kill, hopefully, and then I'd be back out there. And he was the biggest guy on the ice. I didn't see what if you guys remember, Brad Marchand was like laying on the ice, and I was on the ice. It was behind the play. It was James Neal, I think, that kneed him in the head. And I didn't see what happened. I just turned around. It's the second player in 6 minutes on my team that's laying on the ice, almost unconscious. So you have to respond, right? Like, that's my job. And Brooksy was the biggest guy on the ice, and I grabbed him. I was like, all right, I'll rough him up. I'll send the message that I'm going to have to fight. I can't remember, Gods or Rupper or somebody. I'll have to fight them later in the game. And, you know, it's settled. It's good. We're gone. Just move on. But obviously, he was lights out. I still don't know to this day what I did to – I mean, if my hands were that heavy, I would have won every fight I was ever in. But, like, I kept my glove on. But it happened. The optics were terrible. Like, I didn't watch it again until my second hearing, and they played it. And, I mean, him on the ice for that amount of time and the Garden being absolutely silent until the optics were terrible. And it didn't really sink into me until I saw that. I was like, oh, shit, yeah. Now I know I'm getting the book thrown at me. I think the game was in a little bit of you know, all those concussion lawsuits were going on too. I think it was a kind of a perfect storm for me to do that at that moment, because they had to send a message, and they had to send it with me, which I understand the other side of it too.
Speaking of the game being in like different places, it's now you watch and there's so much skill and so much speed. We talk about it all the time, and you must watch as a former player who played a certain way and almost miss some of the rough and tough hockey, the way that guys really settled scores on their own, and now it's just so different. Do you miss it in terms of watching and being a fan of the game?
I can't, I'm not a scout, obviously, but I can't tell the difference between some of the guys now. Like, the fourth line almost looks like the first line. Like, I miss the character, right? Like, I miss knowing, like, all right, well, that guy has a role. This is his role. I don't miss the shit me and Biz used to have to do. Like, all right, we're two tough guys. It's 10 seconds into the game.
Scripted.
You have to punch each other in the face just because it's your part of your job. Like, I never liked the stage part of it, but the game's 200 by 85, no out of bounds. Like, it's a pressure cooker. I think fighting definitely needs to be a part of the game, because if not, it could be even more dangerous. And the guys that are fighting, they know what they're doing. So, I miss the characters. I miss the accountability instead of, you know, the game getting a little bit chippier. I wish, you know, the punch people in the face to sort it out.
There was a story online. Tony Gallagher, a Canucks sports columnist, he called you unethical on television. Is this true? And then you ended up hopping on the while he was on saying that. Like, was he aware that you were on?
No. So I used to do this show on Comcast.
I never heard.
Is this clip anywhere? Can we watch this somewhere?
It's probably somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. I used to go on Comcast with Felger. Like, I had a weekly show with them. I honestly thought I was going to get into media after I was done playing.
I did too.
We all did, yeah.
I thought you would too.
Yeah, this job came about, and I was more interested in the business side of sports than I was being in front of a camera ever. So, but yeah, it was right after the Donnybrook that we had. I was going in to do my normal post-game hit that they were paying me for. This guy came on who was just chirping me, and they like turned on the camera. I was like, hey, I'm here. And I kind of just walked the line with them, explaining different things. He kind of went into, you're a bully, you're 6'4", 220. I'm like, no, the guy I was trying to fight is the exact same size as me. I think I got 4 pounds on him, and I fight guys 6'7", 270. Like, I can look myself in the mirror. So we kind of went back and forth. Yeah, it happened. It's there. It's out there somewhere.
I got to get this.
Shawn, you talked about probably lack of accountability. What kind of changes about the game have you seen that you like since you hung them up?
I love the speed. I love how skilled these guys are. I mean, I watched that Connor McDavid kid. I watched Barkey on our team. Like, what they can do with the puck is just like mind blowing to me. My head couldn't even comprehend even trying to do half the stuff they do just on a normal practice day. So I love where these kids, how they've developed. I love how skilled they are. I love, you know, how fast paced the game is. I think it's a more enjoyable game to watch, if I'm being completely honest. I just wish there's some more characters involved.
So you got to back me up here, at least give me your opinion. I got ripped on online for a take where I said the only 3 players I would trade Barkov for are Matthews, McDavid, or McKinnon.
Forwards. Only 3 forwards.
Forwards, excuse me.
Forwards.
And, you know, some people are like, what is this guy talking about? I stick to it in terms of age. You know, Patrick Kane, obviously, he's older, but can you kind of explain watching this dude every night how ridiculous he is?
Yeah, and I mean, I played with him. I sat beside him in the locker room. Like so this is nothing against anybody in the league, but I remember playing against Boston, and I thought Patrice Bergeron is the greatest two-way forward that I had ever played with in my head. Like, both sides of the puck, his work ethic is. We played a game. I saw Bergie afterwards, and him and Barkey were head-to-head. and they're probably pretty even all night. And Bergie's soaked, right? Because he works. Barkey was barely breaking a sweat. It was like effortless for him. Like the kid's such a talent. He's been down here in Florida for 8 years. Obviously, we don't get national games ever. We don't have the social following we need yet. We're working on it. Maybe we can get Biz to tweet something for us and we'll pick up a couple followers.
Stroke me a few checks. We'll talk about it. Give me
Hey, business for sale. Everyone knows.
Give me a one-way and put me on Barkov's line for 10 games so I could tell these fucking trolls online that I could actually play a little bit. A few backdoor tap-ins.
You could play. You're buzzing around out there. But no, this kid's he's the real deal. Like, he is the real deal. I don't even know if I'd trade him for Austin Matthews. I think the other two guys for sure, but he's such a humble human being too. So he doesn't like being in front of the camera. He doesn't like talking. He just wants to go out there and do his job. So he doesn't get a lot of attention on that side either.
Were you there as well when Yager was there with him?
Oh yeah, I played with Yogs here and in Boston.
So they had a pretty good relationship in the sense of, like, Yager took him under his wing and they'd be going for these late night workouts to the point where I think the team almost said, "Hey, you gotta back off here a little bit."
Back off a little bit, yeah. Yogs, he was a special breed. I remember walking into the Ritz in Boston at like 10:30 after going to Toro and drinking too many beers and a glass of wine, whatever. And Yogs is on his way back from the gym. I'm like, buddy, we're on two different planets, you and I. We're not cut from the same cloth.
Hey, he's still playing, dude. That's probably why.
I know. It's crazy.
Insane.
It's crazy. But yeah, no, he taught Barkey, putting the extra in really helps. Yogs was a great mentor for him for the first couple of years that we had him.
Last year, the playoffs obviously was a huge bump for you guys. I think you finally got a rivalry going with Tampa Bay. Hopefully, we can continue with that. Is that just basically you guys are trying to build off the momentum of last year? I mean, this team feels like it's on the right track for the first time in a long time, John.
Yeah. Hey, listen, on paper, we're a really good team. I stay away from the hockey side completely. I mean, that's all Bill and Q and what they're putting together down there. But, I mean, we watch the games. It looks like we're as deep as anybody up front. Bob gets his game going, and we got a good young D-core now. I think that we have just as good a chance as anyone. I can stand on that. No, I love the rivalry with Tampa too. Like, off the ice, we get along with them great. Like, we're on the business side, like, we're really close with all our counterparts. But on the ice, it looks like they just want to murder each other each game, and it's great for us here in Florida. Like, having that rivalry in state's amazing.
So, as a guy who works with the team now, not a player, do you still get those same emotions when you see those scrums going on, where you feel like maybe Florida, like somebody took a run or do whatever they did?
Yes and no. Some days I'm like, God, that wouldn't have happened if I was out there. But then, at the end I threw my skates out when I retired. Like, I haven't been back on the wheels since I hung them up. I have no desire to ever put my skates back on. Like, my eternal hell would be bending over to tie those things up for the rest of my days. So, some of the guys I played with, maybe, you still, it's in your instinct, but I do not regret hanging them up at all.
When you approach your job, business side and social media and all that, like, I have no doubt if you guys continue on this path and are really good, the fans will be there. Is that really all it is success and winning to really fill that building and grow the following around like Miami or Southern Florida for that team?
Yeah, I think, listen, South Florida is more of an event town, right? Like Buffalo, Boston, those are
even Tampa's different in terms of
Yeah, so, I mean, we're averaging over 14K a game now. Like, and that's our fan base. Once the snowbirds come down and you're playing the big teams. We have the third biggest building in the league too. And when you've played here, like, so have you, Biz, but it's a huge arena. So even if we get 16, 17,000 people in here, we have 3,000 empty seats.
I know.
It's whereas the Garden's 17,400, something like that. They put 16,000 in there. You just think a few guys went to go get a beer during the break. It doesn't look out of place. So I think winning is the next step. I think that's definitely what gets us to the next level. We're building the brand. We're everywhere down here in the community trying to touch every single human being we can as an organization. But winning is going to take us to the next level for sure.
I want to jump back to the Bees. Big shocker there. Are you surprised? Are you surprised Z's still playing?
Yes and no. I think he has a friendly, I don't know if crush or rivalry with TB12. So I think he's going to try and play as long as Tommy. But I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's going back to where it all started too. He's closer. I think the fam's still up in Boston. So he's close to the family. I was talking to him when he signed, said congrats. I mean, his work ethic's another level as well. So it doesn't surprise me. He's going to play until they rip the skates off his feet, I'm pretty sure.
What about in that run in 11 and Marchand was so young and you could see the skill, but truthfully, did you ever see like this 90, 100 point kind of superstar in the league, even at that age? Or were you more like, I don't know how good this guy can be?
No, I saw it. I played with him.
Really?
I played with him for like 15 games. I was like, this kid should not be on our line. Like,
should be in the power play.
Yeah,
you and Soupy and Paille, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Paisy started with Bergie. And then,
okay.
Yeah.
He went the opposite way.
They did the swap. It was the best thing that ever happened for the organization, I think. Poor Paisy goes from Bergie to
Everybody's
Soupy.
trading everybody. Sometimes they just got to switch them up.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, you know what? That kid, I think he's gone on the record and said it, like, you know, everyone says they'll do whatever it takes to win. He really has that mentality. Like, practice, he doesn't lose a battle on a puck. Like, I give up on pucks in practice back in the day. I was like, this isn't worth it. I'll get it tomorrow. Like, his work ethic, his dedication, his discipline. Like, I know people see the antics and they see him on the bar without a shirt on back in the day and stuff, but like, when he goes to work, and he battles. He really, really battles, and he's fearless. He's fearless. I remember him being on my line. I'm like, hey, Marsh, you can do whatever you want tonight. Like, world's your oyster. Just rev it up. Until we played the Rangers, it was like, Boogeyman's on the other side. Tonight you're quiet, kid.
Stop it.
I not want to wrestle that monster. So tonight you're quiet. He's like, I got you, Thordy, no problem. But no, he's a competitor through and through.
Is he the most relentless chirper you've ever played with or against?
Yeah, probably. A lot of guys chirp, but he's over the top. Like I said, he'll say anything. I think he'd chirp his own mom to win a game.
Jesus.
Now, we talked about Bergeron. I feel like we got to ask about him. I know we always hear about his leadership. Like, what is it like specifically? Is it just his presence that like kind of emanates? Or like, why he's such a great leader? What is it about him?
Wait, you can help me out here. Like, I don't think the guy's ever made a mistake his whole life. Like, everything he does is the right decision in all walks of his life. I mean, he's as close to as a perfect human being as I've ever met. Like, he gets it through and through, on the ice, off the ice, like everything he does, he makes the right decision. I can't speak highly enough about Bergie, man. I wish I was as good of a human being as that guy.
You think he's a guy who plays kind of as long as he can, or would more be he knows when he's going to be done? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how long. It looks like he could just keep playing and playing forever. Because even if you lose a little speed, he's so smart, it doesn't matter.
Right. I think he'll make the call. I don't think he'll. I don't know. I've never asked him, but I don't think he'd go into that position where he's, you know, on the fourth line and just taking face-offs. I don't know. I think when he knows he's, you know, time's up on being the best player on the team, I think he'll probably ride off into the sunset and put his number in the rafters a few years after. It's crazy to think of that team. Like, how many guys on that team right now are going to have their numbers up there if you just look at the pure stats, right? Like, it's unreal.
From that run, it's Chara, Bergeron, Marchand, and Krejci will definitely have their numbers retired, right?
I would say so, yeah.
I don't see how any of those
They might
guys.
threaten.
If Pasta stays on this clip, like,
Dude, you might get yours with all the fucking stuff you did there off the ice. All of a sudden, Shawn Thornton night.
Tukes, I mean, he's the winningest goalie of all time. Like, he probably deserves to go up there. I'm a little biased because he's a good friend, but I mean, there's a lot of guys on that squad that probably end up there.
They're going to threaten Krejci if he wants it retired. He's going to have to come back for this playoff run this year.
I think he is coming back this year. That's because if you have to go through waivers, he's going to tell everyone, I won't come back if you take me. Season ends. I don't know. I'm thinking he ends up back on the Bruins.
What
for
do
the
you
playoffs.
think?
I don't know.
No
I don't
comment.
know. No comment.
Tampering.
You still get your play. You still get your place.
He's coming to play for the Panthers.
Oh no!
Breaking news. You still get your place in town, Thordy?
Yeah, I still got my place in Charlestown. I rent it out. It's I was back last week, not to my place, went to the Brewers Fork. Every time I'm in town, I have to pop over to Charlestown.
Absolutely. That place got fantastic pizza too, by the way. That's the place we ate when we stayed in Charlestown last year, remember?
We sat outside. That place was great.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Now, you also still have the Shawn Thornton Foundation, which is aiming for a cure for Parkinson's and cancer. Talk about that a little bit. How's that going?
Going really well. Because I'm not up there full time, I don't have as many events as I'd like. But we just had 5 or 6 runners for the marathon. They raised, I think, around $40K. I had my golf tournament 2.5 weeks ago. I haven't seen the final numbers on that yet, but Whit keeps breezing me. He won't play in it, but
never around. You always have it at bad times. I'll play with you whenever.
Yeah. Listen, I'm lucky. Everybody on my foundation board volunteers. Every dollar that comes in goes right back out the door to Dana-Farber, Children's Hospital, American Parkinson's Disease Association. So I was happy that I was able to start it when I was a player there. I'm even happier that it's continued on since I left, and gives me an excuse to get back to town too, which I don't hate.
There a website you want to throw out there, or anything you want to link currently, or just I know your Twitter handle.
You probably had it in front of you. You're on your computer.
Come on. Oh, sorry.
He's staring at it, testing you to see if you know it.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Oh shit. Well, Torts, dude, any other stories from the book you could tell? Any funny stories? You're gonna make everyone go buy it.
Yeah, go buy it. Gotta put my kids through college.
Or I'll punch you. Should have titled it that. Buy this book or I'll punch you.
When is it out?
November 16th. It was supposed to be out like in 2 weeks, but like everything else in the world right now, there's supply chain mishaps. So November 16th, I think, is the new date. I'm coming up the end of the month. We got a signing at the Encore and at I Love Boston Sports. When the Panthers are playing the Bees, I'm coming up, and we'll have some books available at those two things. So come on out. I'll buy you a beer.
I'd love to catch up with you.
Got a cocktail. By the way, it's I know this is tough to remember, but ThorntonFoundation.org is the name of your website.
I had it. I thought you had it in front of you, though. I thought you could just bump it.
And also on Twitter, Thornton. It's at ThorntonFDN. So thanks for joining us again, Shawn. I know it was way too long.
Don't forget about the gram, buddy. Don't forget about the gram.
Oh, the IG too. Jeez, I know I'm such a boomer with this shit.
I was going to ask a quick one about the book. Is there any a lot of St. John stories in there about maybe Langer and a few of the other guys? I know a lot of these stories got to be left in the vault. I texted Terry Ryan. He goes, "Biz, most of our stories together, like these can't be told publicly."
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I will say, like, my book's not as risque as Terry's was. Mine's, I mean, I'm an executive now, so I have to keep it between the rhubarb a little bit more than T-Bone. But yeah, he's right. I mean, we were young and out of control back then. There was no social
on
media.
The rock too.
Yeah, and 4 years out there with him on my team, who's a legend.
Oh God.
Him and I punched each other in the face probably. We had 3 or 4 tilts, I think, when he was in Fredericton, and then he came on the other side. I was like, God, I'm glad to have you. He's a guy that liked to get punched in the face, I think.
You must have spent a few afternoons having some pops with Senior, his old man, too. In the basement?
Yes, I've been in the basement. There's some stories that shouldn't be told about that, too. I mean, I think he had a tarantula at some point that was just floating. I'm like, this is...
Oh, yeah. Just characters out there.
Yeah, great guys, though. Honestly, salt there. My good buddy, Trans Sandwith, who we played with out there, he actually just went back last week to go visit Terry. He's like, wow, 20 years later, nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the same on Instagram, too. Thornton FDN, by the way, if you want to check it out and follow. All ball busting aside, thanks for joining us, Shawn, and let's get together later this month. Grab a cocktail.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot, Doherty. Good luck.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Doherty.
See you, buddy.
That interview was also brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Think about the major life-changing moments you've had, like buying your first car, getting married, having your first kid, or moving to a new city. Of course, there's also landing that big job that you've been going after, which can bring new opportunities for growth, hopefully a higher salary, new coworkers, new friends, and awesome new career achievements. Whether you're trying to get your first real job out of college, achieve a new title, or land your dream job, you should go to ZipRecruiter.com/easy, because ZipRecruiter makes it easy to find that next job that could change your life. How? ZipRecruiter acts like your personal recruiter. When you create a free profile, ZipRecruiter starts working for you. They send you jobs that match your skills and experience, and then they even pitch your profile to employers whose jobs match your experience. If someone from that company really likes what they see, they can personally invite you to apply to their job. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated job site by G2. So if you're looking for that life-changing job, ZipRecruiter is a game changer. They make your whole job search experience better. So sign up for free on ZipRecruiter.com/easy today. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/easy right now to sign up absolutely free and put ZipRecruiter to work for you. Big thanks to Thorty for jumping on with us. I know, like you said, he's such a personable guy, but he really does not like to talk about himself, which is certainly understandable. He is a pretty humble guy. But it was a thrill to get him on the show once again. Obviously, has some serious cachet here in Boston, so it was a thrill to talk to him. And he's got his book coming out as well. I know he said it during the interview, but it's Fighting My Way to the Top by Shawn Thornton, and he co-authored by Dale Arnold as well. So on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold, give it a check. He's got a great story, man. He was working in mills and fought his way 600 NHL games, 600 AHL games, and had a hell of a career, 2 Stanley Cups. So
the only
thanks
other
for
guy I
coming on,
could think
Jordan.
like that is Tommy Kostopoulos, but I think he was 500 and 500.
Did he play that many in the AHL? I know he spent a good amount of time. That was my first captain ever, Tom Kostopoulos. He's the guy who goes, man, you work on those calves a lot, and I thought he was being serious. He had the driest sense of humor. He was so funny, just ripping on me. I had no idea. Man, you must do a lot of calf raises.
Let's see here. The Hockey Hall of Fame class of 2020 was finally honored this past weekend. They got their rings. Of course, they had the big COVID delay, and they're getting inducted probably just as we're taping right now up in Toronto at the Hall of Fame. Kevin Lowe, Doug Wilson, Jerome McGinley, Marian Hossa, Kim St. Pierre, and Ken Holland all going in. Lowe is eligible since 01, Wilson since 96. We've talked about it before, guys who've waited a long time to get in. And I think the one name that always comes up, McGillney. It's an absolute jaw dropper how he's not in the Hall of Fame. Not only his skill, the points he put up, but the fact he risked his life to come to this country to play hockey. That alone should have done it. But I don't know. Hopefully they'll rectify this in the next year or two.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And in terms of this year's class, it's pretty special. I've talked a lot about Hossa and the experience of getting to play with that guy. And I mean, the ultimate power forward. And some people might not think like power forward when you think of Marian Hossa, but 230 pounds. Nobody had a clue he was that big till you really played with or against him. One of the best defensive forwards I've ever seen. And just a guy, I think, over 500 goals, or he might have had over 600. Definitely over 500, over 600 assists, 3 Stanley Cups. And the way that he lost in Pittsburgh when I was on the Penguins, and then he went to Detroit and the Penguins beat him. I mean, at that point, he had to be thinking, I'm never going to get one. That's after a long time with Ottawa, Atlanta, with the Heatley trade. And then he goes and gets 3 in Chicago. And by the way, when he had to retire because of that crazy, what is it called? Like he had a rash. It was something where I have a tough time describing why he had to retire. It was something to do with a rash on his body where he couldn't wear his equipment, but he was still a fucking good player, man. He wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, the swan song, like he's almost not an NHLer anymore. Like he was still producing and playing at a high level. So I actually heard them saying in the Hall of Fame game the other night, he looked great. It was the first time I think he'd skated since he retired, but just a horse. And more importantly, I've said it, one of the nicest people I've ever met. So congrats to Marian Hossa. My memories of Jerome McGinley just completely owning me. There was a clip sent out on Instagram. I don't know if it was NHL or something where went over a bunch of his nice highlight goals. I'm in one of them. Just, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm on the PK, I think. And I end up screening the goalie, or I got bitched by someone in front. He rockets a one-timer. But Jerome McGinley was scary to play against. He scored, he hit, he fought. And many people say that one of the biggest robberies of all time was when he didn't get MVP the year our buddy Jose Theodore won it. That was the year that McGinley had 52 goals, 96 points. He won the Rocket Richard. He won the Art Ross, and he didn't get MVP. He won the players voted MVP, but Jose Theodore actually got the Hart. And funny enough, I was looking into it. It went down to a tiebreaker that year, and most first place votes got the trophy, and that was Theodore. The reason that Iginla didn't win it, there was one voter who didn't even put Iginla on his ballot. And he didn't even put him in top 5, and it was a Montreal writer. So had he just been on the ballot at 5th, Iginla would have won it. But by not having him on the ballot, it gave Theodore the Hart Trophy. And since that time, they've had to make their ballots public. That changed the way that the voters, the Professional Hockey Writers Association, votes.
That's just cowardly to leave a guy off like that when he has such a dominant year, knowing that he's probably going to win, but you want to pull for your hometown guy when you're not supposed to be fucking biased in the first place.
Yeah, so Jerome McGinley, just an Olympic gold medalist, warrior, one of the best. And it makes total sense to me why those two guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. And then the other one, and I know there's other people, but Ken Holland read a really interesting article by Mark Spector on Sportsnet. When he retired playing, I think he had a couple NHL games. He was a goalie, but he couldn't get a job. He was 29 years old, living in his parents' basement with his wife and 3 kids. His wife was... she had a job. I don't remember what it was. And all of a sudden he started selling vacuums he was going to sell vacuums. His mother's like, I'll buy one. Your aunt will buy one. We'll sell you, get 25 cents a sale. So next thing you know, he got hired to be a Red Wings scout. And you see what he's done since then. 4 Stanley Cups. I think 3 he was the GM for. 1 he was the assistant GM. But Ken Holland, who Mike Commodore, all the guys on the Detroit Red Wings have always told me he's one of the classiest guys in the world. So just proof you can be a successful GM and executive in this league without being a prick, because Ken Holland's done it with class, and everyone who's ever played for him loves him.
Wow, well said, Whit. Fucking A.
Oh, the Hall of Fame weekend's so special. I actually wish they did it a little different in terms of, I don't know, like it's not as big of a deal. I feel like it should be a bigger deal.
I feel like in Canada it's a little bit more national news.
True.
So it's just hard being down the States. Low, I mean, 6 Stanley Cups. Could you imagine winning all those Stanley Cups, the parties, the good times? And Wayne said he was the ultimate competitor. And, sometimes we debate about the individual achievements as opposed to the team achievements. It's just like hard to ignore somebody who has that many fucking rings. So, hey, congratulations to him. All right. Any of the other guys you want to talk about?
Yeah, Biz, the only other guy we didn't really mention too much, Doug Wilson. I know he was a mainstay on the Chicago Blue Line for a long time before he became the longtime San Jose Sharks GM. But yeah, like I said, he waited a long time. One of those guys who was on the ballot year after year, and then he finally got in back in 2020. But yeah, I think you guys covered the other players pretty well.
Hey, Biz, I looked up TK, Tom Kostopoulos. He had 630 NHL games and over 700 AHL games, not including playoffs.
I thought it was 5 and 5. Damn.
That's amazing.
He ended up as player coach, kind of Reggie Dunlop style, towards the end of his career with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. I want to say he's still in the organization helping out.
His career started, he played 76 games, 80 games, 70 games in the minors. He then was up and down for the next 3 years with Pittsburgh. Then he had like 8 years or 7 years in a row in the NHL. And then his career ended 71 games, 72 games, 75 games, 74 games, 31 games back in Wilkes-Barre. What a career.
We played against him in that Calder Cup run in the second round of playoffs that year, and he was still playing. And I'm like, holy shit.
And he played, and like, he wasn't a heavyweight like Thordy, but he fought and like played hard. It's definitely warrior.
Yeah, he was one of those sneaky guys where you challenge, and the next thing you know, you look over the bench and he's taping his wrist ready to fucking beat you up next shift.
Check the game notes, Army.
Yeah, exactly.
Boys, I tweeted about this the other day. The NHL and these fucking blackouts, man, they got to do something here. They got to fix it, and by
confused.
They got to end them. It is confusing because every fucking like cable company has their whatever of rules, laws, whatever. I don't understand the blackout rules, frankly, because I implore people at the NHL to find my tweet on the Chiclets handle and read all the replies, all the quote tweets from all these fucking people who can't see games, and it makes no sense. They're not in any zones where they should be blacked out from any spots. I understand certain situations you are, but I mean, even the NHL network, like for example, tonight, if you cut the cord and you wanted to watch the NHL network, you'd have to get a stolen stream online because the NHL network doesn't have a fucking app, so you can't watch that anywhere. So like,
but what I'm confused about is with ESPN Plus now, and I can get most of the games on ESPN Plus. Okay. So say I watched, Columbus, Detroit on ESPN Plus. That's the two networks in Detroit and Columbus that show the games, whether it's Fox Sports, I don't know, whatever it is. So why can't NHL Network games just be on ESPN Plus as well? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand any of it.
And
that's what's.
And all they're doing is sending people to these illegal streams, which there's millions of them out there, and they work. They're good. I'm obviously not going to say them on here, but what this league is doing is sending thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to these illegal streams to watch their product instead of just fucking. I think the NHL could just eradicate blackout rules. If it's their league, they could just say, "Fuck it, no, you're going to put it on." But it's crazy, man. It's like people all over North America.
I wonder if that's the answer. Is they
have to do it.
They just are like, hey, like we understand that the 100,000 or 200,000 people that can't watch it are going to stream it illegally, but go do that. It's not worth figuring out all these solutions based on these networks, because there's all this fine print and there's a reason probably why they can't do it. I think what would be important if we could get the reason why they can't like the in-depth reason why they can't. So it would kind of just put a rest to all this. Because you have to do this a couple times a year. And we talk about it. Like, we respect the fact that you do it because you want the fans' voices to be heard, especially the ones in these areas. Cause like just one guy tweeting who's got 5 followers ain't going to get to them. Right. So maybe there's an explanation why they can't do it, but we need to know, or we're gonna keep bitching about this every 6 months and sending it on our social media.
I think it's just a relic from the past. I mean, when I think of blackouts here in Boston, I think of like not being able to watch the Patriots games because they stunk so bad and they didn't sell out, so you wouldn't be able to watch them at home. Like, I think of like definitely like the 1980s, but the landscape's changed, the media world's changed, everything's so different. Just the idea that, people live in a certain area and they're not even close to these teams and they can't get them. I can't make make any sense of it.
It's dinosaur thinking, but it's just like, you don't know what's going on with the TV world side of it.
Is it make hair a hide of it? Is that the phrase, Biz?
No clue.
I can't make hair a hide of it.
You're asking the wrong people right now.
All right. Well, we can leave that.
Grinnell bought a concert ticket from a fucking
pizza box.
Wow, what'd you say? I got beat for $32. That's what I'd say.
I put my fucking makeup on with a paintball gun on, right? You're asking me? Come on, meow.
I know Instagram, Twitter, we put out a couple questions here and there to get some, nice little social media action going. Couple we throw out this week. Best NHL era to play in. I'll go to you first, Biz.
Well, I said now because I'd actually win a fight. I could pick on these little guys. I mean, I will say my career in the NHL would have been longer if I would have played probably in the 80s. Maybe even the 70s, because I just like the whole concept of like, it was just like you went and drank and partied, then you put your gear on, then you went and fought on the ice. That's basically how.
And then you went and drank again.
And then you went and drank again. And like, I like my pop, so I would definitely say I'll just stick with the 80s because I think the pay was way better in the 80s than it was in the 70s.
Well, I'm assuming this is this is money not included. I mean, it would be now if you're talking money.
Well, I think you have to think all things considered, right? All right, I think that's fair.
Then I'm going to say the 90s because there were some guys making big dough at the end of the 90s, and the 90s was before the internet and before cell phones. No matter what, it's before cell phones. It's when the guys talk about having the blinking red light on the phone in the hotel room, and that's how they knew if the girl was calling. It's like the old school stories of not worrying about these pictures being taken of you and you're freestyling at Nakama after you win a playoff round like myself. I think in the end, though, the 90s was the bomb to play in. That was the time when, that was the 90s, at least for me, right? I mean, 95, 96, 97, I'm 12, 13 years old. Like I just look back at being so obsessed with the league. And I think for me being a tall guy, that was my best chance to make it too in the 90s, even though I was a pussy because he had to be tough then. I don't know. That's a good question.
No, that's a great answer because you just said there's some guys who are getting paid on the high end that are just as much as today, if not more high end, because there was no salary cap late 90s. I think Kachuk. I
think Pronger was making $10 million. I think in late 90s,
no escrow.
Maybe. Or maybe early 2000s.
So I heard when Kachuk was playing with the Coyotes when there was no escrow and he was making 10, he was seeing about 450 to 500K every paycheck. That is absurd, man. That is fucking absurd. Could you imagine $500,000 every 2 weeks? All right.
Yeah.
It'd be gone.
Or it'd be dead.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
especially living that close to Vegas. We've told the story before about about Walt and those guys. We've told on the podcast, haven't we? We got to.
It's always good to tell it again, though. Tell it again, Biz.
So I think it was JR who told me the story originally. Maybe it was Donor, but they had there was this flight that left at 10:30 from Phoenix to Vegas. It was the last Southwest flight of the night, and they had it won in regulation, but they gave up a goal late. And all the 4 or 5 guys who were going to Vegas, I want to say JR was one of them. Kachuk was one of them. I think Talk was on the team. Well, they end up fucking tying up like 3 minutes left. And they're like, we're fucked. There's no way we're going to make this fucking flight. And Walt's like, yeah, right. I got us. He goes out that next shift, fucking takes it from one end to the other, buries it. Fucking as soon as the game ends, right down the hallway. They want to talk to him because he got the game winner and he's the fucking captain of the team. No media. They get a police escort to the airport, make the flight because they had a day off the next day. And I
want to play in the 90s.
90s. So 90s it is. I'm changing my fucking answer. What an answer. RA would say like the 70s for sure.
RA's like the 30s.
Even the 50s.
No
would be
testing.
cool.
No testing before camp.
It was too brutal, like from the 70s and before that. And that's when the owners really treated you like meat. And they still did it into the 80s as well. The 90s, the skill was good. The money started getting a lot better, the overall talent. But yeah, like right now, the money, even if you're prorated, the money's way better today. The concussions, we know more about that. So you're less likely to have fucking brain damage later in life. And the skill level, man. I mean, if you're a fucking soft player, this is the great time to play too, because you're not going to get buried nearly as much.
90s also, I could show Ryder and Wyatt like a game where I played in where the fucking puck was like lit up, like the glow puck. That'd be kind of cool. That's a relic video.
So I have to elaborate a little bit on the story. Now, I believe at that time, if you ended up going to overtime, did they flood before overtime?
No,
that was
no. I think they started flooding before shootouts, and that was the first time they were flooded.
That was the first time. But either way, if that game goes into overtime, they're probably not making that flight. So Walt put the boys on his back and ended up tucking the Gino. I like the no post game down
as the
tunnel.
Captain.
I don't even
the game winner.
I don't even think he tapped the goalie on the shin the pads that night.
All right, boys. I think that about wraps it up. I mean, we've been going pretty decent chunk right now. If
2 interviews deep. Columbus and Detroit back and forth.
I have the over. It's 2-2. I got the over.
Larkin,
5.5.
Goal number 7 on the season. He's having a great year this year.
Biz, real quick before we wrap up, Leafs won 7 of 8. What are your thoughts?
8 of 9.
I think they're 8 of 9 now. G. They ended up squeaking out that victory. Now we didn't get a chance to elaborate on the O'Reilly. It's Riley. Sorry, Morgan Riley. Mo. That goal that he scored.
I've never seen a puck do that.
He put English on it. Ended up trickling back. It probably hit, I would say, at least 6 inches after hitting the crossbar, and then trickled in. And definitely an emotional win. That was my first time watching the Leafs from the start of puck drop to the end of the game, or at least most of the game. They didn't look very good. Everybody's like, oh, they beat the fucking Sabres. They got piss pumped all night. At this stage in the season, boys, like, you got to irk whatever wins out you can. And the schedule has been a little bit brutal lately. They get I think they got Nashville at home now after a couple days rest. So, hey, you just want to keep the momentum going. Cause I know Whit, you mentioned like the big boys, maybe Matthews in particular, didn't look like he was on his game against Buffalo.
Well, it was a back-to-back, wasn't it? Or was it it was a back-to-back for Buffalo, I think.
Yes.
And I don't know. My question, would you when I watch him and he's on, Nylander is so good.
He's filthy.
Would you rather Nylander at his $6 million or Marner at 11.5?
Oh, 100% Nylander all day. And
like if they were to ever trade one of them, like I would trade Marner over Nylander.
Nylander's really good at getting closing on defenders quickly and getting the puck stop and stripping them.
He is awesome.
Like his forechecking ability, like his effort level is there. And I would say definitely Marner. I remember
if they made the same, I'd rather Marner, but double the price. It's like, and maybe it's not double, but whatever. 4 or 5 million more. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he's definitely the Leaf that exceeded expectations based on what he got in salary. I think he's a bargain at what he makes right now.
And you talk about the top 4 and Tavares, Matthews, Martin, Nylander, and they have to score to win, which they are doing, et cetera, et cetera. Campbell is the MVP right now. Yep. Campbell is so good. And you talk about them having no money for next year. He's UFA. So I don't know. I love talking about next year with the Leafs because I know it's going to end first round of the playoffs. But wild story to see Campbell play as much as he has with the injury to Mrazek and also play as well as he has. So good for him, because after watching the Amazon Prime video, he does seem like one of the most genuine, nicest guys in the league.
Leafs are humming, folks, and they got that. Nashville is going to be they've been another team that's been playing sneaky good. And I know we just had Stutz on to break down Anaheim. I'd like to get like Chris Mason or Hal Gill, who we've had on before, to come on and talk about them, because they don't get, they're tucked away in Nashville. They don't get talked about. They don't get the national coverage.
When do the Oilers play the Leafs? Anyone know? Because we should go to that game.
December 14th in Edmonton or January 5th in Toronto.
I'm going to be in Toronto December 16th this year. So I'd be willing to make a pit stop if you want to before Christmas. You and your silly cast.
I know. I can't.
No, they're in
I
December
can't-
14th. They're in Edmonton, Biz.
I would, but I'm going to Canada. The whole process is going.
The way that things ended for me in Edmonton, I can't go back there with a cast on. I can't do it. I can't do it, dude.
Okay,
that would be just too perfect. Me showing back up there with an arm cast on.
We'll do it in the new year in Toronto. I'm sure RA wouldn't turn down a Toronto trip.
No, God, no. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we appreciate it. This NHL season's humming along. Let's hope that the COVID and Ottawa, they get that figured out. We get it straightened out. The Olympics happens, and these teams keep playing as well as they have been because the league's great. And we got some bad news here and there, but overall, the product's awesome, and we love the game, and we love you for listening. So thank you so much.
And thank you all for the support on Watson Gloves.